So I've been rewatching Korra, right? And every time the announcer talks, I think of Max.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I've been rewatching Parenthood, and like one of the children looks a lot like Max, and is also named Max. So it's a
oh
little weird.
god, someone had like an epiphany stroke vision of Max, and he wound up in the work of fiction because like this is this imaginary boy, but no, that boy is real.
But that's cool. Well, I don't know. I mean, I like a lot of things about Korra, but it's still very like all over the place experience.
Yeah, I can't really put my thumb on it because like a lot of the aesthetic should be 100% my shit.
Yeah, because it's got that modern, well, semi-modern, like I don't know. God, I hate. It's not really steampunk. I guess it is. It diesel punk? I don't really like.
The thing is that
It's
like no, I think it's a good example of why diesel punk is actually kind of a bad label because like it treats with the same sort of like technology and time span, but in a completely different way. Obviously because it's like the world of Avatar or whatever, but
yeah,
also it's just more like I don't know, yeah, it's like it's more sanitized. I don't know what the fuck those vehicles are actually driving on, but like clearly it's just
yeah.
fine and nobody ever worries about the environmental ramifications. Which is also sort of a situation where I'm like I really don't know what like the thing is that the creators are like, we're just raising like it is a timeless story, raising important questions. And it's like when what's his face commits murder suicide at the end of season one, I'm like,
Oh, I'm on.
yeah, oh Tarlock does it.
Oh, Tarla. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I haven't seen it in a while. And I
Yeah,
saw the first season out of sequence the first time, so I like only saw like the first episode and then the episode where like Tarla like dramatically confesses, which was weird.
oh yeah, no, that would be real fucking weird. But yeah, no, they like he like kills himself and his brother, but like the underlying like subtext there is that like erasing their bloodline is better for the world because of their genetic abilities. What's different? And I'm like, ah, yeah, this is all
Yeah, but
very
it's also like
uncomfortable.
other people can bloodbend, including like literally the Avatar's wife. So like it's not erasing bloodbending as an idea,
No,
or
but
it can seem.
the difference is
Yeah, I
that
mean,
they can psychically bend and they don't need the full moon. And even Katara can't do it without the full moon, and she's a
yeah.
powerful
But I don't.
waterbender.
Well, like the skills get so broken in Korra. So like,
Everyone
yes,
can
they have the
lightning
advantage of
bend.
genetics,
Everyone can
but like
metal
lava
bend.
bending becomes a thing. I mean, Zahir, whatever, can do like literally anything that one can ever do with airbending, including straight up fly without the use of air current. So like, I don't believe that once that's become a possibility, they're the only people who would ever be able to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the harmonic convergence, right? I haven't reached that point in my rewatch.
No, this is the well. I mean, it's after people get airbending back, like an evil dude gets airbending, and he's really good at it. Like he just happened to, well, he intentionally studied a lot of airbending texts and became a master at airbending, and then he actually got airbending. But it's not because of any other like random stuff. He's just really, really, really good at it
Hmm.
to a broken extent.
Yeah, which is kind of like the weird thing in terms of like benders versus non-benders and like genetic destiny in the show. And I didn't really feel like there was any sort of satisfying conclusion to like the equalists versus non-equalists. And they
Yeah, I mean that's the
basically
thing is they
paint
didn't really like it's a huge problem. Like making the villain who supported them evil is a really narrow-minded way to look at it. Like, I mean, there are very valid concerns for non-benders in this society, and like chi bending is a good way to address it. But not everyone can be a chi bender.
yeah,
Like,
but everyone can put on the shock gauntlet. Woohoo!
yeah.
And it's weird
Well,
because it's
no, again, I mean, there's still
basically
issues of economic access. Like every farmer probably can't own a shock gauntlet.
yeah, but if it did, then that's basically like a Second Amendment argument. It's like a well-armed
Yeah.
society is a polite society. Everyone gets a gun, so nobody gets out of line. Oh, you're gonna bend at me? I'll shoot you with my gun, or zap you with my stick, as the case may be, because it's a Nickelodeon cartoon. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was. But then it's also like, oh, the military is gonna come and save us from the civil insurrection. I'm like, there's like some subtext.
Oh,
There's subtext,
no.
and I know that like they eventually get to it with Kuvira and whatever, but
Yeah.
design
And
should.
but you're right, like I mean it's also it is dealing with issues of kind of modernity, like or like that period, I don't know, 1920s esque where they have like gang warfare of a particular type that we kind of saw in that period of America, or like dealing with the when you get to the season 2, the movers, where like Bolin becomes a Water Nation hero, so they can convince them the right side of the war, and he's an Earthbender.
Yeah, like it's really interesting. I enjoy the propaganda element, but yeah, I don't know. Like it's like they're trying to. It's like it feels. I think that like the ultimate issue is that they are fundamentally liberals, and yet they undermine liberalism. The council is a fraud. There are only 2 active counselors: the guy who won't do anything, and the guy who is evil. And I'm also never really given a compelling reason for why Tarlok is evil, other than I guess he's willing to like kidnap the Avatar and shit. And he's like. I don't get why he goes on his anti-non-bender rampage. Like,
well, no, remember their mom got killed by a firebender. That's why he and his brother were anti-bender. I don't know if that justifies like these they're evil, but they have a
that's Asami's mom. Their mother just like passes away peacefully. It's because what fucked them up is that their dad was a crime boss.
Evil was bizarre. You're right. It didn't really make sense. It was just, I guess, hit her with the tragedy stick because she had a rich dad and reasonably happy family.
Yeah, like it was a bit of a stretch.
But yeah, you're right. Like I think Korra is just trying to be all of the things at once. And you're right. Like it is weird that they don't just make the Republic. Like it's okay for it to work and to have a different story.
Yeah.
But you're right, like, because normally, Tenzin is good, but is always struggling. The president is incompetent.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm watching season 2 right now, and the president doesn't seem incompetent so much as he's, like, trying to prevent military adventurism. I'm also not really quite sure what the difference is between, like, the United Forces and, like, the individual nations. But, like, is Korra trying to get, like, is this, like, a NATO situation? Like, and like, she's basically shown trying to be neutral, and then no, neutral is the bad thing that the bad guy wanted, and then she's involved in one side of the movement, and then like, there's nuance, and like, but I always feel like the nuance is coming from a certain perspective that seeps into the work at every single level in how they choose to portray the narrative, and they undermine their own nuance by. It was like if we had taken the concept of rigid stars and tried to both sidesism is it. Like, oh, there's good people on both sides. Like, well, I guess technically you guys were the good guys and you were on the other side. But faced with the reality, like, you left. At least most of you did. And, those who didn't are probably not morally or ethically great people. Even if they have their reasons. Like, there really aren't like 2 sides to everything, and there aren't really 2 sides to everything in Korra either. Like, they kind of have the scene where she saves the protesters, the peaceful protest, but like, it's very ham-handed, and like Tarlok is just their immediately elevated mustache-twirling villain to justify the whole thing. Like, there's not really allowed to be a gray zone.
Well, I think the problem is that Korra probably shouldn't do the things she does or wield political power as the Avatar. Like, she's this important spiritual role, which works, but whenever she meddles in politics, it normally goes badly.
Yeah.
And it seems like this year's trying to get her to be more responsible, but it kind of feels like it basically just, an inherited royalty position with immense power that, maybe a teenage girl shouldn't have.
Yeah, also, like...
Yes, she has the powers of the Avatar, but does bending 4 elements and talking to spirits give her the right to dictate international policy?
Not really. Also, she, like, physically assaults people, and also, General Iroh is such a little fucking fascist. When she goes to him, and he's like, well, perhaps if I was to do a routine patrol around the South, and then I happen to run into a blockade, then it would be self-defense. And I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, no, she's
because then again, it's like really the son of the Fire Lord who like controls the Navy is the good guy.
Yeah, no,
now
like
people are like, let's not have military intervention.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot of fucked up shit going on there, but like I don't know, it like the issue is because they've said they're like, oh, do you feel like now more than ever it's relevant? And they're like, no, because we feel it's a timeless story. And I do feel it's a timeless story, but I feel like it's the story of Fukushima's end of history, where liberal democracy is primarily the means of all resolution in the world, And I will begin the episode playing in the background now as I rant about Korra with the audio low until we get to like a scene where I don't know Roger Ross is being dumb or whatever. I
Oh
feel
god,
like
it's so weird. So there's like I'm supposed to be reading some stuff on Latin panegyric, and the
Mm.
main like guy who writes about Latin panegyric and Latin panegyric is named Roger Rees, and I can't like I keep seeing Roger Ross. I'm like, are you sure this is a qualified expert? Did he not just fly a nuke into a ship?
yeah, or try to. You didn't quite reach the ship, sadly. Um, but yeah, no, it's Korra is such a funny show because I should love it on so many counts, and yet I continually just don't seem to. It doesn't hit the marks for me. Damn, we takes like us like 15 minutes, me 15 minutes before we actually get to the game, doesn't it? Here we all are in the entrance room.
Yeah, that does happen a lot of the times. I think it's one of I know I haven't figured out a great way to get things started immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things where early on in a campaign, unless it's like a very collected group of people. Did Max miss this episode, or does he just not have a camera?
I mean, no one missed any episodes. We just didn't play if someone couldn't make it.
Huh. I must just not have a camera representing Max. But yeah, like generally speaking, a combined like the more that a group like settles into a role, the easier it is. But honestly, I think that a campaign, in a campaign format, like the earliest episodes are always going to be the roughest. Like with your last Change Stars game, I felt like we were actually pretty close to a groove. Late session hiccups notwithstanding. So you know,
God, it was so bad. And I mean, like I have a lot more sympathy for Pat and Rigid Stars now, which I wanted to say on the record, which is that it's a lot harder to like even when you say in advance that players need to go in a certain direction that their characters need to be, but it's really hard to do that in practice or to correct if it doesn't quite work out. Like, yeah. Now I get how hard that is.
Especially if there's like a
No, go on.
If there's a strong character concept, like the looser the character concept is, the better, because that makes it easier for them to like sort of go with the story. Like if Azari hadn't been like quite that character, she wouldn't be able to get out. At the same time, like doing a session 0 or a half session 0, doing those sorts of things, like it gives you stronger characters, but that's not always like an advantage if the emphasis isn't put on like be sure your character would be willing to do X or Y under Z circumstance. But that would have been really hard for you because like you didn't like I wouldn't have wanted to be spoiled on how the burn was going to come out, right? Even though like
yeah, and it's not like I knew exactly, like obviously with the hyper emphasis Martian thing, like I picked the specific reason that the fallout, based on the context of the characters. I didn't have that planned in advance. Like I know why they actually want you, but I didn't have the pretext in advance.
Indeed. Tabletop Anthologies, thank you so much for the raid. We were doing a Rigid Stars rewatch. It was an 8-episode Alien RPG campaign. You can find it on our YouTube channel, and we're looking at the beginning of the series, Tabletop Anthologies. And for those of you who are our friends and viewers, Pat and I are going to be on Tabletop Anthologies channels on Friday for a cool Alien RPG game. This is, of course, set in Pat's Change Stars original setting. But yeah, it's going to be super exciting. Hi, everyone.
You are nowhere near the core.
But yeah, I'll keep it playing in the background, but I feel like we're going to talk over it because, everyone's seen this.
But yeah, and it's also hard to start like a session dynamically because you have to get through, well, at least for the first session, whatever, you have to get through the premise to explain it to all the people who couldn't read the document because, they weren't playing. You have to like show off your maps and like exposition monologue.
Yeah,
I remember we were just kind of in the space station for a while.
Yeah, because like multi-lees, yeah, we have leeception, we have lees squared, lees on lees on lees. Yeah, because like how long are we in? Like, I'll just like do a quick scan of the timeline. Yeah, you don't get to Huang's office, which is like the next scene, until 55 or so minutes into this. One interesting thing to look at is also going to be like the Dr. Huang like episode 1 versus episode 7-8 characterization. Because I mean, she's sort of
and I think it's like, well, it made sense. Like I think she went off the edge, and she was trying to keep it together a lot better than the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
But like her art did change, and maybe a bit of her character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, she is like. I think this is one of those situations where when one knows an NPC very well, it can create a scenario where you're not. Past Leland is messing with his hair, and now I feel compelled to mess with my hair. This is a really weird, really weird sensation. Yeah, it's definitely a scenario where Pat has this well-established character that she's more or less ported over from a past sci-fi setting, and she's kind of like a villainess stroke self-insert, but a little eviler than Pat, and that means that Pat intrinsically knows the character very well and just sort of gives us a side view of her in the moment, and then the progression makes sense to Pat. However, we as the viewers and players, like this is most people's first exposure to the character, and she's supposed to be like a big historical villain of the series, which is, I mean, weird to say considering she dies 120 years before most games will ever be set.
Yeah, I mean, she's not like an historical villain in Rigid Stars. She did one feudal thing. Well, I mean, I guess she is a villain in the sense that she literally invented a way to genocide the Marine. For all we know, she was involved with the genocide of the Mustakan, too.
Yeah, like she's...
pretty good villain qualifications.
Yeah, it's more like, thank you, Go M Dionysus. I would love to drink wine with you sometime. Lamentably, normally a new follower gets named a generic NPC. This campaign we're watching right now is over, but I could bring up the Roll20 and posthumously name a human marine if you've got any ideas, or you can swing by any of our other streams.
Well, a very special one. There's the one who died in the vacuum of space because I shut the door of our shuttle before he could get inside.
Oof.
You know, humans are bad. Changed us. Though they're not.
Yeah, which is one of like the interesting things to have this like Starship Troopers style. We're not going to cover Tungsten Rain, but to have this like this Starship Troopers style setup. Oh, you guys couldn't see into the office. I'm realizing because that must be a Control L on Roger Ross. And like there's like a whole like sitting office across from where you guys were lined up. But nobody ever saw the interior of that whole office. Because...
Yeah, I was actually wondering. I was like looking at it, I'm like, wait, I don't remember that office. Who are those people?
Oh gosh, yeah. Let me bring up. We can also bring up the our Alien RPGs Roll20 and like take a look at some of these maps. But that's funny as fuck. Oh god, the things one overlooks while, because it's like, okay, I've got the map done. Now I need to go put these lines all over it. And make sure all the doors are separately colored, own lines that can be opened and closed dynamically, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it's hell. It's hell. But there's part of why there's another tabletop that I'm looking at. But, oh, hey, Pat.
Well, hello there.
Hey, Madeline and I are just reflecting on like the early episode and the fact that the light layer was actually done such that nobody could see into the office adjoining the hallway that they were sitting in.
Yes, I don't think the office ever got visited at all. But
Nope.
I spent like, an hour on it.
It's such a, like, there's like so many little details. There's the posters. There's like the wares that you originally made for like some like Frystat marketplace, but they look like little cardboard boxes underneath the printer on the dolly next to the thing. And you've like drawing or alt dragged them into like special little locations. Oh god, you have those two medbay things together. It's a good way. The lamp slightly obfuscating the shutter. Like so much like primo details. Of course, then there's also the fact that like the door, the south side, is actually upside down.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My bad.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I was actually, so I made that map envisioning there being some sort of like, I I don't know, some like map crawl kind of stuff that we actually ended up doing, but like with better maps. And I envisioned that as being somewhere that the players would potentially sneak through at some point.
Interestingly enough,
It never got done.
It seems like I fixed it at some point because I'm checking the map and the light layer is rigged up right. Oh, that's not actually
Cool.
a PC.
Yeah, no, like I envisioned part of the ending sequence to be like finding the admiral and killing him as like part of like the idea of what they would be sent to do. Obviously, I changed that and just made killing him like a beneficial thing that would help you later. Because obviously, that motherfucker did not deserve the screen time, considering all the shit he represented.
Yeah.
Just like Caesar's death, honestly, is such a perfect scene.
it was pretty good.
And that was not envisioned from the start. Yeah, that was you guys.
Yeah, because I mean, like he even had like the battle mecha and everything with his own like the blood red paint on the arm and everything, and he was definitely we set him up. We definitely set him up as a villain, right? Like because he gets like a half-hour monologue, I think. Or maybe not quite a half hour.
He was definitely a dick. Like, he didn't even talk to Clarice for, like, the first session.
Yeah. A woman talk? I think not.
Lee, ping the... Oh, wait. Sorry. Yeah. No, it was... Yeah, he was a total asshole. That was kind of his shtick.
Yeah. Here's a question. So, like, it looks like we spend, like, a goodly 15 minutes on individual PC introductions. And how to introduce a PC in a campaign is always like a weird question to me. Like, do I have us go around the table and say who we are? I think the best solution we've hit on, I eventually clearly get Max on the screen. The best solution that I've hit on, I think, is what is the name of that one shot that I played for our group and then improved for the stream? Hard Passage, where everyone gets out of a cryopod together, and then they're looking around like, "Who the fuck are you?" But obviously, you can't do that every time you start a campaign or a one shot.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, people already know who each other are, like unless they have amnesia or they're total strangers. Like, who the fuck are you? Oh, my best friend of 15 years. Let's exposition some more.
Honestly,
exactly.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I like having that element in a game. Sometimes, I mean, it's great for streams where obviously you want to explain what your character's shtick is to a new audience that is just showing up now to watch you play. But another thing about that that I find beneficial is like it really kind of gets you in the mindset of playing your character, or like it gives you and the crew.
Yeah. It is a pre-play ritual, which is very important for getting people into the mindset. I would say that one of the things I struggled with most early streaming with Crown Breakers and shit was like it would feel like it was over an hour until we were really playing the game, even though we were technically going through stuff. Like I had to trip an encounter or force something in the narrative before people would really get into character. And I think that doing a little self-interest.
Concept, you don't do things.
Exactly. And that comes back to really the difference between like the character you dream up in the backstory versus the character that comes out and play. I am gonna like listen here to like whatever the fuck Max said about his character, just so we can listen and chortle about concept versus how it
yes. I will unmute this.
I am with Intel.
I probably.
Probably some sort of military.
We had a great choice of music for this scene.
I'm assuming none of you are stupid, or at least not that stupid. She marches through the doors, and having seen her face and having it been shift pinged for the audience, we no longer need her in the presence of you guys. You are now waiting because you know the meeting room to be empty. You're now waiting for a summons. While you're waiting in the lobby, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? Let's start with the soldiers. Carl Harris, please.
I read Are we doing backstory?
I'll start with
too, or?
soldier is a strong word. Okay.
Yes.
I am a Carl Harris. I am with Intel. The exact nature of my role and responsibilities is above your pay grade and need to know, and you don't need to know.
Games in theory, right?
Games and theory. I'm actually here because I want to make a board game out of the.
Right. So Max is originally Games in Theory as a straight rip from Starship Troopers, but then we redact that to IO.
Yes.
That is
Treat.
funny.
Oh my.
Yeah, well, because he didn't really have. Yeah, I guess I honestly don't remember that bit of Starship Troopers. The book, if it was there, I don't think it was a very important element. Maybe it was more important in the movie I didn't see.
They have
But it's like a function, not really a character.
Yeah, they have Neil Patrick Harris's semi-psychic character be with Games in Theory, and I think Games in Theory is supposed to be the psychics or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, they're definitely psychics.
And then
There is no psychic power.
he puts his hand on the brain bug and he's like, it feels fear. It's afraid, and they all cheer or whatever, and they do the fascist jerk off thing.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty great moment of satire.
Yeah, I mean, it was that director knew what he was doing with that.
Quite
Yeah, I know.
Profitable.
The people
I
were
would
trying
imagine.
to genocide. They're afraid. Hooray!
I wonder how the rest of his.
Well, it's for morale purposes. We're going to distribute it to children.
Oh yeah, indeed. Children love squashing bugs, as you all know.
Exactly.
Good.
I mean, I'm
citizens,
actually
they do.
part of the division that was responsible for Whack-a-Bug.
That's such a classic.
The bloody
really
thing in
creative.
all our
Yeah.
games.
Some effeminate
And yeah, so I mean, Max gives us a pretty straight character concept. I think everyone more or less states where they were with their character at the beginning, and I don't think anybody really deviates. Everyone more or less tells us how it is. They've got their archetype, they've got their reason to be here, and then we meet Admiral Sanchez, who is pretty immediately a dickbag.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, he kicks off a speech, he's in the room, but basically, mechanically, this is all lead-in. And then at 55 minutes, we transition to Dr. Wong, and Pat, now we're going to come to
That's
the...
still basically lead-in, too, because it's another
Yeah.
exposition scene where most people aren't even involved.
Yeah, we don't get
Yeah,
aboard the Ajax until an hour and 11 minutes in.
This first session was basically a session 0. I'm not gonna lie. This should not have been streamed.
Yeah. But the thing is that I think that there's a value to having it because it sets up where they are, because it's not like session 0s are more for creating the characters. This is telling everyone here's how it is. Here's where we're taking it. Here is the beginning point. If we want a hero's journey, this bullshit, then this is this is the steady state world. And the heroes have to go off and return with the elixir, except, the elixir in this case is being treacherous revolutionaries?
Wokeness?
Oh, God.
Acquiring even a modicum of self-awareness.
Yeah. But we now introduce ourselves to the format of this series, where we're going to hear panel style determine two things. One, the rigidity, and two, how many out of 50 stars we're going to give this episode.
Why did we choose 50?
Because the American flag.
Oh, fuck, you're right. Yes, and the Empire is indeed a parody offset.
Yeah, so rigidity here is a measure, and I haven't had any metric on it, so I'm looking forward to us being very creative with this category. But rigidity refers to how, according to plan, the session went. You and I had an idea for it, and you and I thought that we were going to get through a space battle and a half in this episode. We were.
Yeah, no, basically the first 3 episodes are what I envisioned the first episode being.
Yeah, no, we thought we were gonna bag the players at the end of episode 1.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly
was-
what I thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call
Rigidity,
limp.
16. Oh yeah, no, limp, exactly.
But in terms of the quality of the session, like, because yeah, it is like the first half is more or less intro, and then there's getting to know the Ajax, which I think the Ajax turned out really well. And then by mid-session, we're getting to the listening post scene where we start to learn what the fuck is going on and establish like the more brutal elements of this reality. And you know,
Yeah.
several things that will stay with us forever are established here, because I'm pretty sure in that space combat, Clarice Ritter's like panic goes through the roof, and
Literally immediately.
yeah, and then Devin's like kind of morally conflicted, and Roger Ross is himself, and
Yes, what a lovely and not at all short-lived character.
Max hides in a room, and
Push after I see their decoy.
yeah, and then we get to the space combat, which I think that this is actually the space combat that gets received kind of well, if I'm recalling correctly. Before the subsequent space combat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think this one was pretty quick
Yeah.
and like made sense.
I did.
Ouch.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
were correct.
I think it's also because like the positionality. Don't get me wrong here, but I think that the positionality aspect gains something by having the fact that it wasn't just 2 units relative to one another. It was 2 units relative to the same central point that was the listening post.
Anyway,
Yeah.
you guys see the
And having a thing to like
Round
protect
form
as opposed to
from this
yourself, or to
distance
deal with
of
as opposed to
the
yourself, is
disc-like
useful.
listening post. That
Yeah, I definitely think that it moored the combat, and I think that when we look forward to how we're going to handle the Change Star system, the CSS, if you will, to include space combat, we're going to want to look at like, why do people stop and shoot at each other in space? And
Yeah, because I mean, it is hard since most of what makes like normal combats good is interesting features of the terrain. But a lot of space combat is just like you're in space. There's nothing around. At least later, like we
Yeah.
also had the feature of the asteroid field, which was cool because it gives you something to play off of.
yeah, no, like absolutely. I think that an emphasis on the fact that, you know, people surf into gravity wells. So like, yes, space is big and empty, but if a ship has stopped here, unless they deliberately stopped in the middle of fucking nowhere, then there's something around. And I think that going into space combat with that mentality can have some advantages.
That's actually not a terrible suggestion.
Yeah.
Because like it is literally established in the canon that slip or surf space or slip, surf or fold space, depending on what my fucking mood is any given night, is indeed something that drops people out near gravity
Yeah.
wells.
Okay, but can I just say, I want to find the Roger Ross quote, because I was really trying, like, early on, I was going try hard on the voice, and, like, I really just love the phrase, like, surf out, or, like, surf us out, and I use it multiple times here. It's probably pretty vain for me just to go hunting for it, though, but yeah, I think this establishes our steady-state world pretty well. It ends on, like, a cool ethical dilemma. It foreshadows everything going on with Meat. And he's like fires missiles, and like it underscores the fact that Roger Ross is like a bit of an insane dickbag, and that makes his actions in episode 2 a lot more reasonable. Not reasonable, but like understandable. It doesn't come out of left field. You see him, we see what he's like talking to his boss man, you see what he's like in here, and then dying. Although that also brings up the issue of, like, this was basically a DM PC, so how much screen time did Roger Ross really need?
of the age.
I mean,
It
enough.
depends on how you play him. Like, I don't think it was wrong for you to play it. It wasn't something that was specifically based around your knowledge of maps or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like it's worse in some ways if you don't do anything with the DMPC because you're so worried about meta knowledge. Like, then it's just dead weight. Like, if you're playing a character, play a character.
Yeah, and I think that being because I think that correct me if I'm wrong here, Pat. The original concept was supposed to be very Ajax centric.
Yes, it was going to end in a space battle in which you guys were in the Ajax, and that was like the killing of the Admiral was going to be like a kind of. I mean, it was always supposed to be the thing that sets the action off, but it was not supposed to be like part of the serious climax. Like, you were supposed to do something on that space station, and then you were going to have an epic space battle, which I kind of envisioned was the end portion of it. I guess I had a lot of ideas for how it would end, but one of them certainly stuck.
Is there any scenes that either of you would like us to like go back and re-watch here, in particular?
Are we still on episode 1?
We're still on episode 1.
Can we get literally just and only just Dr. Danielle Huang's second fruit tree monologue?
Yeah, let's because this sets up like a big season, like the campaign antagonist by some metrics, right?
Yes.
And she was certainly conceived of as the big bad. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
Oh,
absolutely.
I guess she wasn't Pat's head, but I didn't see her as the big bad, and like some people didn't even interact with her.
Oh no, she was never supposed to be like the big bad of the entire party. Honestly, what I wanted, God, I'm so weird. I wanted this to be like a total inversion to like the whole story arc that one might expect, I guess. Because obviously you saw the Admiral in the beginning, you thought, yes, this motherfucker's probably going to be the big bad. And to an extent he was, but he was also really just a person, like a human doing his job and, being a bad person in general. But like he was the known factor. What I wanted to do with Dr. Danielle Huang is be like, yes, this Admiral character was your enemy, but the person who really actually, wanted to see you all dead was this random person that was co-workers with Madeline. Like, it was weird and atypical, and I thought kind of unique or interesting. Maybe I'm just deluding myself here.
No,
I definitely thought the way you used her at the end was interesting, and I think like it makes a lot of sense in the context of like just Clarice's story, where like she had to decide about what to do with this genocide information, and her half-assed decision like still resulted in this very high stakes death match with someone who was basically on the edge because she suffered from all of these factors that Clarice had basically just chosen to stop suffering from, like the systemic patriarchy of Fenrir Core, the extremely morally questionable decisions they were forced to make to survive in that kind of toxic system.
Absolutely.
And like Dr. Wong can't let go. So it is kind of like a dark mirror of Clarice's journey, since Clarice also had a really hard time letting go.
True.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really dark mirror. I mean, like, yes, specifically Clarice, but I think there was a lot of dark mirror of everybody. Like, the Admiral was some sort of vague concept, but Dr. Danielle Huang could have been any of you. And that's the part that I thought.
Now that I'm thinking about it, though, like I'm almost on some George Lucas shit. It's like poetry, it rhymes. Thinking back to the Clarice v. rest of the party shootout versus the final fight in the Longinus Conduit, where, her companion is basically saying, we gotta pull out. This isn't worth it. We need to retreat. And she's saying, no, I'm going down swinging. And she goes down swinging.
Mm-hmm.
I would, but we can listen to the Huang-along, and then
also I wrote that like 4 years before this. So.
Right, yeah, there is that legacy that I mentioned before you got on of how this is like a character you've had forever and ported forward to this setting, and in some ways informed this setting. But let's hear what she has to say.
Ooh, a nice office.
You see Dr. Huang, but not her face.
I will pause here to say I like how I wound up giving it like a condiment. It's like the mayo, ketchup, and mustard room.
Oh God. Beautiful.
with some lettuce. Oh God, no! Like this is some sort of deep meta commentary on
McDonald's.
hamburgers. No, oh my God, it's a golden arch. It's a golden arch. I can't unsee it. We're getting copyright struck right now. All right.
Wait, no, it's great because like there's the fascist side of the American Empire or the Cuban Empire, and then there's the corporate side. It's great. It's like
Only the
poetry.
back
It tastes
of-
delicious. I don't eat poetry very often, but when I do, I make sure it's diesel shot poetry.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's see how this is going.
Her coat as she stares out the window at the planets, or at the planet and its moons. Ichthys 4. She notices you from the sound that the door makes when you open, and she gestures you to come forth. She has a glass of bourbon in her hand. That's for you. She still has not turned around, however.
Such an honor to meet you.
Indeed. Well, I've heard a lot about you. You're ambitious, like I was. You're hungry, like I am. Do you enjoy looking at the stars?
I do. I mean, stars represent infinite possibility.
I agree. And they're so beautiful. You see, I grew up on Earth. And, well, you know what Earth is like. You would know that Earth is kind of a hellhole at the moment. It's completely, the smog permeates the atmosphere, which is entirely too thick. It's warmer than hell, and most of the equator is underwater. Or, most of anything that could be underwater is underwater. She says, gesturing forth at the beautiful planet that you may or may not have gone to, Ichthys 4, which is a gardening world, or a farm world. And she says, yes. The great celestial bodies. As a child, I marveled at their greatness. I would gaze out my window, vainly hoping to catch just a glimpse of a single star or planet through the smog and light pollution, but to no avail. The first time I saw one outside of a holoscreen, she says, turning a little bit so you can see her eyes, was when I left Earth for the first time. I was lucky enough to have a window seat on the shuttle, and my life's trajectory has changed from the gravity of what I saw. I looked back on Earth, and it was small. So small, looked as though you could hold it in your hand like a bruised green apple. And to think that apple was our home. This astronomically small blue-green orb was the birthplace and graveyard of almost all of humankind. One day, Earth will breathe its last breath, I thought to myself there in that shuttle. But humanity will not. No. We are no longer tethered to that green orb. No longer are we worms in the core of a rotting fruit. She turns to you. You can see her hair is gray. Her eyes, they've sunken into her skull. She looks haggard. We have metamorphosed, she says. And now we have wings. Clarice. Look at them all. Gaze upon our fecund interplanetary fruit tree. All these worlds are ours. So full of invaluable resources. Biomass, water. The very fuel of the stars themselves. Any one of them could be a new home for our species. But we have access to all of them. They're so beautiful. So inescapably tempting. It's as if I could merely extend my arm and grasp one in my hands. And yet, the joy is fleeting. I can't seem to grasp one. They always slip through my fingers, she says, gesturing dramatically, as
Hey,
if
I'll hold
to
you.
grab the stars themselves with her free hand. With her other hand, she hands you your bourbon, fully turning around now, so that you can see her face. She is, not what you expected. She's a lot less put together than you thought she would be.
Does
You can
that seem like a
tell-
recent phenomenon? Like,
Oh, yeah,
because of
yeah.
an ingelasi? Okay.
You can tell that the pressure is getting to her. You've seen it before. She's
Deja
on her
vu.
lap.
Thank you for the bits.
She's at her.
Ooh,
you know,
we got bits.
She's at the end of her
rope.
coming-
Anyway, though, the monologue is over.
Yeah, Madeline is in here for another, like, 10 minutes before we cut to the Ajax. And yeah, I mean, like, we know what happens. I wonder how long the, like, missile scene is. Because I feel like that's...
Oh, God. I think it's
Oh yeah, 'cause that
probably
went on for a while in rounds, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was that long in, time.
But, like,
Mhm.
he had weapons that could do
That would be good
things.
to watch.
I recall the beginning of the session, Lee being like, "Who
Yeah,
is
go
the
for
murder
it.
bot take
Oh,
orders from?"
Thank you, Joy.
in
Thank you.
response to potential disappointment of his orders. Well, it turns out
It was
not
supposed
him.
to be
Yeah,
paralleled
so-
by
I
a dying
assumed,
monologue, but
like, the
they
captain,
didn't give
but
him a
no,
chance.
It's the Fenrir Core bot that's responding.
Instead, we got a far more feelsy, I think, scene with her dying in her lover's arms. Yeah, no.
I think it
Fenrir,
makes
you know, the two villains get the hero's death.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Didn't
from their perspective, and that was cool because that was the real mirror of like Devin and Han.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Horner and Han, or Devin and Jacqueline.
That was exactly the
appreciate
point
the,
there. Yes. Anyway, shall we? Lee, do we have a thing for us to think?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm honestly, like, yeah, I feel like the scene was pretty impactful for, like, me in it, but I feel like probably less so for just, like, oh, yeah, hold on, because we junk this thing, and then we see the Hell's Heart before the end of the episode.
Yeah. This
Indeed.
is episode 2, though, right?
No, this is episode 1.
It's
Oh,
always
fuck,
the
you're
most
right.
They
No,
fun.
could
no,
be a
that's
different
right.
missile scene. This is the one where he hits the space station. I was thinking of the one where, like, you had to wrestle for the nuke missile, but both of them are good scenes.
Oh, God, yeah, no.
that was in
Yeah,
episode 2.
yeah, I definitely think that, yeah, I think that,
They don't expect it.
You have to escape the gravity well of this space debris.
yeah, but, I mean, I do think that at this point, it's time to put a label on it. And I know that out of 50 is a really weird metric, so I don't know if we really want to go forward with this gimmick or not. But more or less, think of it like 5 stars, but you can modulate by, like, percentages. But what do we
I like
think?
that.
What do we think? Episode 1 gets out of 50 stars. 50 being like perfect session, everyone has a blast, great story is told, etc., etc., and a 0 being, I don't know, we didn't even show up. 1 being like absolute.
I am probably going to perhaps undervalue every single episode. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't really think I got a single 5, so let's just have at it.
Okay. I mean, we can record what we individually think, but how many stars would you give this? I could lead if you'd prefer.
Let me go last because I'll probably clean house.
All right. I'll start. I think 42. I think this gets 42 stars. My main deductions come from the fact that the monologues were too long and the character introduction of being in a hallway and then going to a conference room was not super dynamic, so we didn't get to start feeling the characters until we were deeper into the episode. But I felt that what they set up was good, and I felt like we had a lot of in-character role play and a lot of in-character decision-making and, like, uniqueness that went into the whole thing. Particularly beginning with Madeline actually getting to kind of talk to Dr. Huang after her monologue, or at least, like, ask questions like, she's disheveled, is that normal, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I don't know. I would give it 42 stars. Madeline, do you have a rating?
Yeah, so I've divided the 50 stars into 25 for like plot presentation and how much like world building and story interest happened, and then the other 25 for like player enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give
Nice.
it a 20 out of 25 for like storytelling and plot stuff, and then I give it a 15 out of 25 for like player enjoyment because it was slow with an ultimate score of 35. But I mean, things improved greatly from this point.
No
Nice.
kidding. All right. Well, I actually have a very similar opinion to Madeline. I would go even lower. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something about that?
No, I'm ready for your number.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably go even low. I would give myself maybe 30 at most. I'm thinking maybe 28. I don't think that. I'm funny, it's kind of a random number, but I don't think that I did a particularly great job during this session of meeting the marks that I had expected to. So, like, it 100% failed with that rigidity test.
Yeah. So,
so to speak.
rigidity-wise, it's limp.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
it's
but this is
bad.
stars. This is just how like good it ended up being. So it can be an
Right.
unexpected beauty.
Okay, fair enough. I think that I felt personally while I was doing this that I was boring the players, spending way too much time on the monologues, and that it was indicative of a lack of planning, which is not really true. I had planned all this out. I just didn't actually anticipate how long it would all take. It was just a time-wise a fiasco, I think, in my opinion.
I put it down 0% to our planning and 100% down to execution, which I don't think was bad. I gave it a 42 stars. But I think that the plans that you laid were good, although I think that you and I, when we talked about it, as we were out on walks or whatever, like, we definitely had a we really developed a version that we can see me like drinking a beer from your fridge or whatever.
Oh my god, you're right.
Because I looked at that and it looked pretty good, and I'm like, hey Esther, is that anyone's? And she's like, nah. And I'm like, all right then, I'm just sipping it as Roger Ross. But yeah, the Rigid Stars campaign, very great time. We began while I was still at Pat's. But yeah, no, I think that in part because we had those like long periods to just talk about how we thought it would go, we kind of wound up nettling ourselves. But hey, let's see how it turns around in episode 2, which begins.
What movie?
Okay.
Hold on, wait, was that historical Madeline or current Madeline saying good movie?
Not me.
Historical.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I haven't seen the.
And then,
I
for
would
good
currently
measure,
have Lindsay saying good movie. Actually, I don't know. She could potentially say whatever she wants.
So now we've got everyone on the bridge, and we're which is a bit of a change because I think Carl used to be like alone in his sense room or whatever, and but everyone's here at the bridge, and we see the Hell's Heart, and it's the lead-in, right?
It's Patriotism Day.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, and then the joke's about Patriotism Day because I think it was July 4th or whatever.
Oh wow, it's been a while.
Because I mean this campaign wound up taking like 2 months, 8 episodes, and a gap for like 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Was responsible for. Now, for your
Thank you for devoting this much of your life to me, everybody.
Yeah. But yeah,
Awesome. But has the campaign ever ended on time already? Like with Red Knight and the mini campaign, it's supposed to be like a 3 session, but I assume it's not going to be because.
Yeah, no, it's already pushed over
to
to
what
before.
this space about. Like, that
Yeah,
would be a
no.
lot of time to wrap things up.
No, it's never. It's never happened, unfortunately. Pat, here's a question. This episode coming into it, we knew that we had sort of like fallen behind, and I think that what we wanted to do was we wanted to end up with them captured and aboard the Hell's Heart by the end of this session, right?
Yes, that was the plan from the very beginning, that they would have that happen to them like session. So when I originally pitched this, I thought it could potentially be a 3-part.
I think with rigidity though, we're gonna go off of what we were thinking going into the episode.
Yeah, no, totally. Just to give people like a little bit of context though, who aren't like us three. Originally, when we tried to do this, we thought it was going to be 3 parts. 1, they get the Hell's Heart, or they get the Ajax, they get this monologue, they get to the Hell's Heart, and then they're captured. 2, shenanigans on the Hell's Heart causes them to change their faith. 3, they go back to Ichthus Station and join the war, basically. And that's kind of the broad strokes of how it ended up playing out over the course of 8 episodes. and some of them were like me really trying to hustle through shit. So. Do you want to show off? Anyway.
I feel like
actually no. Wait. The second part was gonna be shenanigans on Ichthus or on Hell's Heart, and also shenanigans on New Nerona. So like, there was gonna be supposed to be a lot of shit happening in that episode too.
So like, it looks like we spend the first like 40 minutes of this like posturing and approaching, and the Thren pursuers still haven't popped out. Although because I have them out there shadowed, like the audience can see Thren ships, which is perhaps not a great decision on my part. Because like they're there for a while, like they're there for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and of course, considering a lot of our players watch the stream, probably knew it was coming.
And then it pops out like 46 or so, and then the space combat begins. And I'm going to try and capture some of the beginning of the space combat, perhaps just so we can get like a taste of what went wrong this time after receiving initially promising feedback about the ways that we were speeding up space combat.
Yes.
From within the Hell's Heart.
That is absolutely true.
No, it's 4. And they're pretty close. I'm going to make it so I'm going to move that here, and it will represent all 3 of the pursuers, okay?
All 4? I'm not over Devin's character.
Yes, what I was saying.
Like, just so much pecs. Like, he's a human Empire soldier, and he looks like Tarzan.
Yeah, no, it's just also like very clean shaven like Tarzan. But yeah, no, that's just straight up like pre-tattoo Koba Toth art.
Yeah, literally the way I found the art reference for that is I googled sexy Japanese man naked.
Yeah, I feel like
awesome
so much about his like appearance was influenced by the fact, of course, we wind up talking about High Road because
that he's always in the bathhouse when they meet him, so of course he's shirtless.
Yeah, so like I'm like his naked body, but wearing a towel or whatever.
Oh my god, that's so weird. I just realized he's always in the bathhouse because he's so sinful and he has to wash away his whatever they're
Sunda.
Sunda. Oh my god, Lee, that's such a brilliant character design. I love it.
Yeah, because it's like a contrast to the fact that like he's evil and like he's aware of it, and he like observes all the proper social things around what he's doing. So like he's always going for the ritual.
That's a good character.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I think so too. Spawned by the fact that I wanted there to be bathhouses in like every city in this world. I digress.
And I'm gonna move these guys out to the side a little bit.
Anyway.
Yeah,
So
back to
you are as you are.
There's a little kerfuffle over how we're running the 4v1
Are we
space
in
combat.
The field still, or are we?
You are actually in the debris field, but on the coming out on the other side.
That's not something that changes soon thereafter.
So we are now in the same space, or
We're in contact
You're
range, plus 2.
occupying the same. Yeah, you're occupying contact.
Unless you try and pull away from them and do better than they do. But they have one more success than they need to put us in contact.
This is a very high kerfuffle session.
all right. So
And now the rubber banding back and forth begins.
stressing this out.
Oh.
Nice.
Classic
So what does it mean by
space
magic?
combat in the Alien
I
RPG
guess
system.
stay away from docking range.
Love you, Alien
You
RPG.
basically know
Never
either effect.
change. Or,
You
well,
use the plus one
maybe you
shield.
can change that.
Okay.
Piloting phase. The Thren like fan out into the fours. You And we've now reached
Even
the gunner
stars
phase,
can change,
and,
they say.
I
Oh,
guess,
Sorry, real quick. What are the size relevance? Sorry, to relevant to us. What is the threat pursuer's size ship?
Smaller, a bit smaller,
I
but
think
not.
60 meters long to
Yeah.
our 170 meters. I'm like referencing how many meters long the ship is. We're 170, they're 60 meters because we have it all out in the little sheets that they made, which is like a bit more than is necessary, but you know.
Yeah. They're a little
yeah, you went OD, my friend. OD.
Yeah, because
one of the
like
things that Alien RPG lists for ships when you make one. I mean, I didn't bother, but it's there.
Hmm. No, it truly is. It's there.
yeah, because like here is just for reference, like a dear audience. This is the Ajax character sheet using their form fillable thing, but like which is like GIMP edited, punched on. Fenrir core is the manufacturer. The Father 500 is the AI core. Technically speaking, a crew 8, passenger 20 vessel. So we have lots of passengers. FTL rating of 6, thrusters +1, armor 6, hull 8, signature +0, length 170 meters, and then a blade of armor Mark 3, +3 armor, and then all 5 weapons, because double LRTs.
Beast.
Yeah, and then of course the Titan array attack nukes, bonus -1, range long, damage X.
Yes.
And then here's the alien ship, the Mirai missile frigate, 300 meters long, FTL rating of 8, blah blah blah, lots of missiles, some sensor drones, and then they had a melee weapon of the salvaging clamps they didn't get to use.
Okay.
Yes, there's the initial like confusion of combat, and they wind up like shooting down a lot of enemy ships, but then like 6
Yeah,
people
no,
die in the engine room.
that was not. Yeah, I should have just made that. Oh, I should have given them so much less autonomy. That whole thing should have been fucking dialogue.
Is this actually a character sheet?
I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you don't want us to win fights, yeah, maybe you don't drag us through a bunch of combats.
Yeah, I mean, so I wanted to let you. I wanted this to not be like me railroading you, and I think probably at the end of this session, especially, I say a lot of the stuff that I'm probably about to say right now. I did want you guys to get, to an extent, the opportunity to make this like a natural story arc, I guess. I wanted you to make the decisions that led you to where you ended up. And, I wanted you to maybe improvise in ways that would cause me to think and to change how I'm going about it. And it definitely did lead me to change a lot of stuff on the smaller scale, even though the broad strokes kind of remained the same. But yeah, no, I think I kind of fucked up here and let you win too much in the very beginning when it didn't actually matter, because eventually you were gonna get fucked over by them anyway. I guess if I wanted to be like cynical about it.
Yeah, but it's a really hard thing to do. And now, like, in the like unstreamed campaign that I'm doing, like, it's really difficult to, even when you know like what beats players need to hit and you agree on characters in advance. Like, it's really hard to still get people to that place in a way that feels organic.
Yeah, no, case in fucking point, I just lost my character that I was playing in your campaign because she's like got a hero's heart, so to speak, and she's like way too noble for her own like longevity.
Yeah,
and,
it's like the noir thriller where like you have this intuition about the dark things that are happening, but then one character decides to ignore those intuitions and just wait for the enemy to eat her.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes perfect sense in character. Like, the Trinity is fundamentally good.
No, she's not accustomed to, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the shit that the Human Empire did. She's a Federation kid. but yeah, no, like exactly. There's a lot of there's a lot like especially when you have such a strong character concept. It's not like this is a one shot, right? This is a campaign. This is something where you go in with a strong character and a sense of identity with that character, and you role play as that character would, and getting anywhere all at the same in a sensible fashion is not something you really script. But anyway, sorry, I kind of got you. Or what you were saying.
I mean, the course of the fight, like the Ajax gets fucked up on like the engines and ramp. I don't know that really affects us. But then obviously like the big combat across the ship goes on to take like an hour, and you guys finally escape. I guess the Roger Ross riding out the missile sequence occurs during that time. It's
that part was cool.
Speed map the shuttle.
Hmm.
A fitting end.
That was actually somewhat planned from the beginning, I think, right?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely like the idea. I thought that the players might stop me, but didn't some of the players try and stop me?
I mean, I almost stopped you. Like, no, hey, rude. I got the friend to go attack him. Shin didn't actually stop him. He just he followed Roger Ross's orders and left that room. Like, that was not the right call.
Oh my god, I've been remembering this wrong though. I totally thought that Shin tried to stop him from killing himself, but you did. Amazing. I'm sorry.
But, not to save his life or anything, just because the information I needed was on the Hell's Heart, and I needed it to not be destroyed.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
In this
fucking cold.
Roger Ross gets 5v1'd in the missile tube. Truly a legend. 6v1'd. Unless that person's dead and just not well marked. But yeah, I think the real question now is, so like by the time going to this session, we thought okay, we underestimated the time. Or we overestimated how quickly we'd get through things. So the plan was we would have them in the brig of the Hell's Heart at the end of this episode.
Yes, and then I guess they didn't really. I mean, they briefly visited the brig.
No, they do not reach the Hell's Heart.
We were in the shuttle, and I think it's next episode that we actually get, agree to go to the Hell's Heart.
You're so right. You guys were gonna try pulling some shenanigans, and that's when I was like, yes, this is interesting, and this is kind of what I wanted to see, because they're innovating and they're changing things. The script has shifted, and then like in between the week, I was like, oh god, what am I gonna do? I guess the original plan. There's no way they're gonna survive this if they try to do it on their own. Oh my god.
So here's the question: what kind of rigidity do we hit on episode 2?
Yeah, this is the least rigid, I think.
Flaccid, I'd say.
I mean, there were some marks. Yeah, this is absolutely.
I would argue that episode 1 was actually less rigid. Because
less rigid than this. I think that's possible.
Because episode one, where are we expecting to get? We're expecting to get them onto the Hell's Heart. Where do we get? Approaching the Hell's Heart. Episode 2, where are we expecting them to get? Just inside the Hell's Heart. Where do we get them? Just inside of a shuttle. So, I think we get them closer. I think that we were expecting the fight to take more or less the session.
Yes, but I also did not expect them running into a shuttle that I provided with them, that I fully gave them the concept of being able to do. And also, we forgot entirely about the gas that was supposed to be released through the EEVs. Or I did, rather.
Yeah. So I was, and that was one of the weird, elements of disconnect. Yeah. We call this one flaccid, because I think
knockout cast would have made a lot of sense, because they just, we beat down everyone except meat.
That was the original plan.
I do have a spacesuit, so actually it would still be Clarice and me fighting the bad fight.
Oh my god.
Oh my god!
So
yo, that would have been great, and then you would have gotten your chance to reform early, I feel like, almost.
Let's go for the 50 stars. I'll start us off, and I'll call it 30. We didn't get, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna call it 30. Oh shit. There's actually a very important Dallas City Council moment right now.
What?
Hold on.
Do you want me to carry on?
Yeah, just say something. Sorry, I got a
Yeah.
moment.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, unless Madeline wants to go first, I think. Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, I mean, this one's a little sad because I just have very mixed feelings about combat in general, especially long combats. And, well, okay, mixed. Normally negative feelings, but I think this one had some really good combat points. So I guess I would call it like a 17 out of 25 because, I mean, it's sort of like it was just combat, but on the other end, the combat did some important things. And then I would call the rest of it, I mean, like player experience, my category. I think again, kind of the like average, like probably a little higher, like a 19. Like there were some really low moments, like the 10 plus rounds I spent being able to do nothing because I was broken. But then there were some really cool moments. I got the flexibility of getting to like basically try to stop Roger Ross and hack into stuff. Hey.
Oh wait, my microphone's unplugged.
So I'll put my final score.
Hey Max. All right, so I couldn't hear you guys during that time. What are our numbers?
Sorry, let me just add it up. Mine was 17 for storytelling, 19 for player experience, which is a total of 36.
Nice. So a 1-star improvement.
Interesting.
I'm gonna give it a 35. I think the player stuff was fun, but I fell apart in my role as shipsman and running the space combat fast. So yeah. Hey Max, we're discussing the rigid stars. We reflected earlier on the fact that you actually literally were games in theory earlier on before IO got invented.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
You
the pitch.
Yeah, that was the pitch, and he stuck to it, my friend.
Did he? Like, I mean, obviously, I haven't seen the movie, but did the Games in Theory guy betray people a bunch of times, or just like constantly sell his services to the highest bidder?
He was sort of a bastard.
Well, yes. Well,
He functionally sells out his friend, and his friend yells at him about it, and he's like, "I'm doing the right thing," or whatever. It's a very different
Actually,
moral
yeah.
and ethical scenario, but there's still an element of betrayal.
Okay.
but
And I was playing games, so
Yeah. So, Max, how do you feel about your character? Actually, we should finish up the episode 2 stars first. Pat.
Okay, yeah, let me just give you, so, rigidity-wise, we've covered stars. I think probably, is this is the one with the big long Thren fight, right?
Yeah, this is the one where the
Yeah.
Thren are just pouring into the ship and people are shooting them left and right.
You know what?
I thought they were like human.
Humans, yeah. They're humans in the outfit.
They were humans, but at this point, like, they were
Yeah, we
supposed
thought
you were
they
supposed
were
to
Thren.
believe they were Thren. So I will admit freely that I had probably a lot more fun with this than the players did. So I actually enjoyed the fuck out of the Thren fight, or I guess I should really just call them the Lowest Legion fight because that's who they actually were. I like. So maybe I'll split this into what I think or my personal enjoyment and how I think I did as a GM. In my personal enjoyment, if we're giving it 25 and 25 split, wow, what's half of 25? Now I have to think. 15 is half of 30. I'm going to give this a 20 on personal enjoyment, and on how good of a job I think I did as a GM. Well, by the end of it, I felt like I'd done maybe 7 on the GMing scale, so 27.
All right, now Max, here's a question. So, episode 2 of Rigid Stars. It begins when you guys are approaching the debris field, seeing the Hell's Heart. You've seen it at the end of the last episode. It ends with everyone but you escaping on the shuttle, and you're captured. If you had to rate that on 50 out of 50 stars, What would you give it?
Okay, I want to start by rating the rating scale, and I want to give the rating scale 0 stars, because what the fuck is an out of 50 rating scale?
I know, right? I covered that earlier. Apparently
Because 50 stars on the American flag. Additionally, you can just treat it as a 5-point scale with the option of like a 0.5 if you want to give it like, you know.
Why not just make it a 5-point scale if decimals allowed, or an 100-point scale and make it round numbers?
Because America.
Because America. Now, give us your stars and bars.
I will point out that this particular decision to do the 50-star thing is the most overtly patriotic aspect of anything the channel has ever done.
Hey, we played on July 4th.
And
I mean, we
that
played this
feels
on
super
July
out of place.
4th.
Yeah, I mean, we played a parody of American imperialism on July 4th. But yeah, so Max, give me your. I mean, everyone's remixing.
Okay, I don't know, probably like 37.
All right, yeah, fair. All right, yeah. So that's episode 2. They had some good moments. We're not gonna go back and like spend 20 minutes just listening to them.
I rate the scale 0 out of 10 because 69 is not a viable
Everybody
score.
around you, so like.
Hey, I was gonna make that joke once we got to the episode with the orgy.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we come
The
back
episode
to.
you really got to live out your character's conception, which is to say, Howard Bottom, or how
Hey,
how did you
that
name
was
it?
an alternate character conception.
I actually thought it was the character conception you ran with, hence why I made that
Station,
scene.
in addition
Yes,
to,
I figured you took
aside
some
from-
aspects of what I said there, and just what you know about me as a player, and catered to that a bit. But we can talk about that during that bit instead of
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see what's happening at the beginning of episode 3 as Devin Horner stands next to the ash pile.
the Hell's Heart, which they kind
Cool. Ah, yes.
It looks like the fight goes on for a while. Kara,
It's a
Kara
slow
is up
action.
there.
And
Yes.
Well, so I think
Yeah,
you
we
turn,
fight
you say,
like the
"I'm
Thren, and then we talk to
overwatching
Han
Pat
for a
Knight."
long
You don't
time.
look slow
I briefly threatened
So, on your
Devin
turn
with a
turn,
gun.
You do
It's
have
the
Oh, yeah,
exact
right,
thing that you were
forgot about
complaining
that.
about, Madeline.
Oh god, yeah, the shuttle standoff lasts at least an hour.
some
Yeah,
of
it
the,
was a while.
ash and
I mean,
bone.
we went back and forth trying to figure out a way out of no-win situation.
Max, how are you feeling as you were just stuck there in the bridge making eye contact and like with my character? Not eye contact, but just like subtle like nods.
I actually enjoyed the stuff on the bridge. I mean, it was relatively hands off, where I just sat there while the rest of the party's getting their asses whooped / running away. Mostly because
Unlike
I really enjoyed.
in prison.
Most of it of what I enjoyed was knowing. I mean, I had figured by that point that the in charge woman whose name I forget and Leo always got wrong. Han. Yeah, I figured she and Shin's character were involved either historically or contemporaneously, and she was being kind of flirty, and I was like, that's funny, and I enjoyed that.
Amazing. Yeah,
It's you.
picking you up by the collar and everything.
Wow.
The conflict and yeah, so you guys are still on the shuttle. Like, I want to say, like, yeah, no, we're past the break, and you guys are still on the shuttle. This is truly the shuttle episode. I don't think we need to dwell on everything that happened on that shuttle. This is
I don't
the.
think we
I disagree.
remember
I think the
anything
shuttle is
about the
pivotal in
shuttle.
understanding the nature.
I think the shuttle was a fucking.
I honestly think
Weird
that this
time.
we're gonna have to come up with a more flaccid rigidity rating for this episode. I think Pat and I were thinking we were gonna get this done. Do you remember thinking we were gonna get this done pretty quick, Pat? I remember thinking we were gonna get this done pretty quick.
This is the 4 years on estrogen rigidity here.
Yeah, I had the bridge.
Buddy.
I had the bridge of the fucking Hell's Heart ready to go.
I think we get there at the very end.
I actually don't think we see the bridge.
You might be right. I didn't realize that was a map that I could go to quite often.
Because yeah, we go back onto the Ajax, and then they take us to the Hell's Heart.
The B&B stands for Bridge and Brig, which this is the brig that they never get thrown in. But yeah, no, this is the map. And I have this whole thing fucking ready to go. Like, and then just it doesn't happen. Which, to be fair, nothing wrong with being over prepared for the coming weeks. It's actually a really good feeling. It lets
There
you do
was
more
a
stuff.
break we never saw.
Yeah, there's a brig.
Was there?
Yeah, if you look at the stream right now, because Pat wanted both a bridge and a brig, like a brig for a potential breakout sequence. If Roger Ross was still alive, he would have gone and tried to assassinate Khan and then died in the process. But if you look at the map right now, or the stream right now, you can see it. And
those were
here's
supposed to be
here's the little
big.
Khan's office.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's the bridge. But yeah, to pop back to the episode, this is where the Enmada face reveal happens. And I'm still playing Enmada pretty subtle because I don't think that she gets outed out of character until next episode.
I think it's like
Yeah,
the
I
very
was,
beginning of next episode. Pat's like, we're all sitting at this table with Lee's character, who is an undercover spy.
I'm just like, oh.
That's
Yeah.
just such
It's
a
a-
bad GMing point for
It's
me.
alright. Remember when I think I spoiled something else later in the
Shall
series.
we
We came out one for
explain?
one on this.
And then she looked.
You did, but still, I fucked that up.
Was your plan for Anna before that happened? Like, how long were you going to keep up your cover?
I mean, like, it was really going to be down to Max and him choosing an opportune moment. I also did not see the Max trail coming.
Which Max Trail?
I did not see him walking straight into Khan's office coming.
It was so juicy.
It was juicy. I appreciated it, but I didn't see it coming. I thought for some reason that there was going to be like a moment of violence where Enmada, like, you were going to like activate her and she was going to like do something very drastic, and I was going to like shoot out like a wall and cause explosive decompression or some shit. But yeah.
I freely admit I have no idea what was gonna happen.
Oh wait, no. I apparently I'm a lying sack of shit. They do get to the bridge
Well,
this
yes,
episode.
but why this time?
They do get to the bridge this episode. At like 2 hours
Yeah,
and
I
40
thought
minutes.
they did.
I mean, I was incorrect.
And then there was like one line of dialogue
This
from
is
Khan, and
freaking
I'm like, that's
like
where
the
we
goddamn-
end.
God, more like the
for
pits of
night.
hell.
Oh yeah.
I
Let
did-
me find
Tell
the.
me
Let me
things.
find the.
I think Max like more like the pits of hell with the fucking bridge, which is kind of true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's man. On one hand, I look at this map and I see all the effort, and but I still can't say I'm very proud of it.
Yes. I know what you mean. It's great. I love you. It's amazing.
I
You're an
digress.
awesome map maker. Never stop.
I mean,
And I mean,
one
Rogue
thing I
Funny
think about
really
that
isn't
bridge
designed
map
for
is-
tiered maps.
That is such a true statement,
Yeah.
and it sucks.
Unlike
ass.
Foundry VTT, which has little like things that the players can click on to go to other places, and pretty good like lighting tools to actually facilitate multiple Z levels. But yeah, no, it's just it does an adequate job. But yeah, so this is the setup. They come in, and I feel like we like sound off on all of the random bridge characters, which kind of later becomes find the spy. Except the spy announces himself to us, and then recruits us with Seamus.
Yes. Love that guy.
Oh, was that the purpose of the announcement? Because I knew the spy was from the very beginning, because I was like, cool.
Oh,
Seamus
yes.
can do good one of the NPCs I don't give a shit
Sorry.
about.
So it's going.
Yeah, no, Max's character actually knew Seamus was the spy from the beginning. That was like literally, I think session 2 or whatever. I told
46
Max like
episodes.
what Max's secret agenda was, because of course somebody had to have a secret agenda. This was,
Alright.
actually.
All right. So
Anyway, though, Max,
Now, Max, you weren't here for the rigidity last time, but rigidity refers to how, according to plan that Pat and I had going in, this session went, and we determined that the rigidity is 4 years on estrogen.
Yeah, I heard that.
Stars out of 50. I'm gonna give it 30 personally. I mean, it got the job done. I'm gonna give it a 27 to be honest. It got the job done.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
yeah, no, I'll give it like a. Honestly, this doesn't even deserve a tiered gradation grading system. I'm just gonna give it a 15.
A 14?
I said 15, damn it.
Okay. 15. Nax. Stars out of 50 on episode 3. Everyone is on a shuttle for a long time, and then you walk onto the bridge, and then it ends episode.
I feel like that episode was kind of bleh. I remember at the end saying I felt like the whole episode could have just not happened and nothing really would have been lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like 20?
Fair.
Okay, I'm gonna
Max,
give it
feel
a 30.
like-
I have one important counterpoint to that, which is Han and Devon's relationship was properly introduced.
True.
Han was introduced like
Ah.
in this episode. So that was hugely fundamental for the rest of the campaign.
That's
that was
just
really
so
That's
important.
right.
one thing that happened in an
That
entire
is so
session.
true.
And it wasn't even like a time-consuming thing like a combat. I'm just saying, I feel like the time was very
Yeah.
poorly utilized.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't the best session. Yeah, that was like the one big high point. And yeah, the low point was like, just tell us we're fighting a losing battle, get us off the shuttle.
Yeah, I would call episode 3 the nadir, the increasingly wrong ways to say that word of the series, where we're still bogged down in the rigidness of our stars. I think from there, Pat and I bounce back in terms of our planning and adaptability. But Madeline,
Yes, and then we get the orgy episode, which is a complete reverse.
Madeline, how would you? Yeah, that was another. But Madeline, how would you star
give it a
this
28.
episode? 28. It's an overall 28. All right. Episode 4. Okay, so this is the episode that ends with Clarice, Lucian, and Meat heading off to go do nefarious things, and begins, I guess, still on the bridge.
I think I think there's like a brief shift of time. I
Mhm.
think that's the one where I tried to get people to give me like between the week stuff that they would do so that I could save some of this dead time. And I got some from Madeline, and also I think some from a couple other people, but mostly Madeline. And it was solid gold and really informed what happened later. But yeah, no, I think this, yeah, there was supposed to be like a little time jump,
A week's time, yeah.
but it ended up being more like a day or two in real time, or in the game time.
And woohoo!
Oh, sorry, I'll turn that down. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm just trying. I don't want them to get banned because they read the sounds, and I'm not on the right to game. Woohoo! Whistle!
Being attacked by a dinosaur, it's quite unnerving.
Oh God! Dino danger.
Fortunately, this
Man.
robot won't kill it for
With
me.
me at work.
Dang.
Day.
Indeed,
Yeah,
and it certainly
that's
wasn't
Yes.
you making all of the maps and me making the tiles. Definitely not that.
Yeah,
it
so
was
what
all
happened
James.
this episode? Is this
You
the
can-
one where Seamus McDougal approached us?
I think it has to be because you end the session headed towards the rear of the ship.
Okay.
Um,
So this is where we end at like the trolley thing or whatever to take us to the engine room.
Yeah, that's what I think goes down. I'm just gonna play like the beginning of the episode for a little bit, get a sense, then hop around.
Why am I hearing a
I did it all hand.
The dramatic moment of Max betrayal.
On the roll 20 with the roll 20
Yes.
draw tools.
Oh yeah,
It's very
Max
impressive.
and Madeline. I think honestly, what
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
no,
made the
absolutely. I'm
later
floored
sessions
by the work that you've
very
done. It
Max
must
and
have taken
Madeline oriented
years.
is because Max and
Um,
Madeline were really the only
James,
ones
I
who
need to
spent
start
like
giving
like
credit for
Max
those
much
accomplishments.
in
When
the
actually
week
I
between
made this,
stuff.
and what I did is I made a complete 3D model and then rendered it from a top-down perspective with such a filter.
I feel
to
like
make
it's
it
because our
appear
characters were more
two-dimensional.
intrigue
Use
focused
the
than the rest of the
camera
party,
to get
and
this
so we
sense
had
That is
so much
awesome.
we wanted to do.
It took a
That
solid
was
3 to 4 weeks, but I'm really proud of how.
Agenda driven rather than like character driven. And most of the character driven stuff a lot of people want to do on screen or it doesn't really feel like it's done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
no,
which
totally.
comes back to the backstory versus what you play dichotomy.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, Good Stars, episode 4. You guys are on the bridge. Let's see what happens on the bridge. I think this is like pre-game talk, more or less. We'll see if we've begun to talk by about now in character.
In space, they weren't quite sure what the deal was, but Healthheart was not joining the fleet when they retreated from the Battle of Neo Roanoke.
It's like a summary of like how Han's Hellcats wind up
Your
here.
conversation.
Oh yeah.
But nobody
You
else
see,
gets
there's a
it.
thing here. There's a
that
problem there.
did need
Lee
some
doesn't understand the
exposition.
meaning of the word.
I didn't really get a chance to
Unless
speak
you
much
put Lee
for
after
sure.
it.
Got him there. Yeah, unless
Had
there's
to
a
work that
Lee
in somewhere.
at the end.
I feel like I failed Chin a lot in the later sessions.
We're 18 minutes deep. Well, I think I recall him saying that he didn't expect as much as he got. So, like, I don't think you left him disappointed. But yeah.
Yeah, and yet, I mean, this huge ethical dilemma. I don't know if I agree with his handling of it, which is mostly like choosing neither side until the last possible minute. Like, I feel like he really kind of sold Han out there. Like, who's like, oh, it's fine for them to blow up the ship as long as, no, wait, I guess we would still be on the ship. But, you know, I gave my word.
Yeah, no, like that actually decides how Han behaves for the rest of it. Like, it's not just a straightforward romance where, oh yeah, they meet and they're on the same side. Like, you know, they meet. They're briefly on the same side before, Devin reveals that he's spineless.
To be fair, like, I think a lot of that is that, you know, Shin's had
Party
experiences
was
where, like,
mostly
where campaigns fall apart because people, like, you know, don't work with the party anymore. So I think he's always hesitant to, like, screw the party. Because at that point,
but
it still looks like most of the party is going along with the plan.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't blame.
Sorry,
I
we're
do not
just-
blame him or his character for how they handled that. Like that was,
Yeah.
it
Well,
was
like-
it worked.
Like 20
Really
minutes
nice.
deep in the episode, and people are just talking about Lee puns. I'm gonna see if anything
My
happens
original
here.
statement.
I'm sorry. We're on the bridge.
I mean, to be fair, that could happen at any point, regardless of the activity going on in terms of gameplay around it.
Trying to
During effectively
relay,
any game we've ever played
but you know,
in the
you've
last
been
5
trained
years.
for this. You're not.
I've been
you're
trained for this. My
Yeah,
digestive
it's
system has
kinda
been
sad.
honed to process both
It's
fruits
true, we
and
knew Lee
meats.
before he made constant Lee
Indeed.
puns. No one else will ever have that experience.
Oh my God, there was a
That's good point.
time.
Wait, it definitely started when at least I was still in college with him. So my question is, when exactly did it start?
I think it was after
When
I
we
left
lost
college. Like, it was
It must have
when we
been.
started
I
playing
think you-
online.
I think your disapproving presence is really what held him back. We need you to be.
No, actually, Madeline, because
Oh, that's all.
So,
I used to do things like randomly capitalize L's, and Madeline disapproved of that pretty strongly as well. So I feel like this was just like, you know, the niche I wound up in.
that doesn't stop Lee from doing that all the time. And, like, every single one is like a tiny dagger stabbing into my eyeballs.
Amazing. Amazing.
Real problem with typos.
Is a miscapitalization a typo, though?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the typographical error. It's capitalization.
I actually miscapitalize things too, but I don't have the same rationale behind it as Lee does. I capitalize words that I think are important, and it's just a bad habit.
I
Oh.
also
Fun,
miscapitalize
though.
things, but that's purely because I'm just bad at typing.
You
Fair.
are really bad at typing.
Dang. Take a
Don't
shot,
worry,
my
I'm
friend.
also bad at writing normally. I miscapitalize more in pen and paper.
Beautiful.
Alright, we're gonna.
Our state of affairs are in order, and that we
Move
will
on in the
continue
session.
self-governing. And
Yes.
that means I'm going to have to
Let's.
step up and become a governor of some sort.
So we've all rolled initiative, including in Mata, and it's on the screen, but I don't know why. Because we're all
I
just
think this
fucking
is the
talking.
one where I kind of
I'm
make
not.
people roll initiative.
Oh, the
roll
social initiative or whatever, yeah. People
Handle
should.
it.
Yeah, and then we
in-
move around the Hell's Heart. We
and
see
everybody hated
the
that.
larger cutout of the ship map, which I'm not glad about how I made the ship shaped,
Or
but
perhaps just stay.
I think it worked for what it needed to do and be.
Are you saying it was ship shape?
Oh my god, kill me.
Within Recorp, I have the ability.
That sounded like a combination
please.
between
Yes, George.
your normal like sexy growl thing you do, the Chewbacca sound, and someone gargling.
Yeah, someone drowning. Yeah.
I was gonna aim for more of a Chewbacca sound, but I didn't have
Ability to
the heart
open
for
any
it.
door on this ship, though as a first mate you could probably also do that.
Yeah.
Just
So like
mildly
they're
Chewbacca.
like on the good guys ship for like an hour or so, an hour and 20 or so, like an hour gameplay before Seamus comes up and just like, says, "Hey, let's do evil together."
I love
like
Seamus.
one evil, please.
And then the rest of the time is like moving around, negotiating, whatever else, all leading up to the engine room kerfuffle. Pat, do you remember going into this how long we were expecting this to take, or what path we were expecting the players to take? Because I think that I think by now we learned the lesson of we can't really tell what they're gonna do, and we were relying on Seamus to like be the catalyst of an attempt if they didn't make one themselves.
Yeah, no, exactly. Lee, I hate to say it, but rigidity-wise, this is the biggest fucking hard on of the series because this episode went exactly how I planned it to.
I would call it turgid.
Really?
No,
exactly? Like, you planned for us to waste all of this time, like, fucking around the ship, and then,
Yeah,
like,
no,
waste more
basically
time
I
trying to figure
realized
out a plan to do what Taylor wanted us to do?
I like it's not that I believe I did a good job as a GM. It's that I made a plan because I knew that nobody would be converted just by the banter between this was the point in the campaign where I had to win everybody's hearts. I had already kind of done so for Shin because Shin found Shin's ex-lover and now they're all kind of hunky-dory on the same side. I hadn't done that for basically anyone else. I felt like I had a good in with Max, offering Max an opportunity. I did not realize Max would take it. That's like the least rigid part of this. I thought Max would use that as a fallback when the Seamus coup failed, or when it became obvious that Seamus was going to betray you.
This is really good observations, but I have to say, you don't pronounce the P in coop. God damn it. It's going to destroy me inside.
What did I say? Did I pronounce
You said coop.
P?
Coup.
I said coup. Coup.
You said coop.
I speak French. I know how to pronounce the word. I'm obviously doing it for fun here. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
It was not the best of plans, but this one went pretty much according to it. Given that I made only a very weak, loose plan of you guys will interact with the players or with the party on the deck, you will not be converted, you will meet Seamus, Seamus will convince you to coup, you will attempt this, Seamus will betray you, you will join the human resistance. That was more or less how I pictured that going down. Max was converted to the good side kind of more naturally, which was interesting, although, not necessarily the good side, the self-interested side. And Rainbow ended up doing an epic and perhaps game-saving / changing
but that's episode 5. Yeah, that's episode 5.
But it got set up. It got set up here.
So
a lot of this
is the Empire Strikes Back of this campaign. This 3-episode arc. So we're calling this. Yeah. Are we calling this turgid? Are we calling this raging? What are we calling this?
Throbbing. Turgid. Let's not get excessive here. Let's just change stars, Lee, not Battlestar Galactica.
So
we don't really have to go too far into the whole phallic thing.
All right, so we're gonna call it turgid.
Yeah.
All right. I will give this a 35. I felt that it was adequate.
Yeah.
And Madeline, what did you feel about episode 4?
She probably hated it.
Yeah, I think I'd probably give it a 37 or something. I don't think a lot really got progressed. Even though this was supposed to happen, I think it was a lot of setup time for something that ultimately ended up kind of fizzling out, even if that was the plan. But I think I enjoyed this session as a player. I remember having fun, with the like role play on the ship and planning stuff, and even the like off-screen role play that nobody got to see for a lot of cool people on the ship.
Entire series, actually.
Yeah.
Purple was introduced there.
Yeah, Max.
Oh.
What? How many stars out of 50 would you give episode 4, the talkie episode?
I liked it. I don't know, like I'm gonna go like 38.
All right, yeah. Slow.
I don't want to go up into the 40s quite yet because, well, I do feel like a lot of really interesting stuff happened and it was pretty fun. Like, it was just a lot of talking at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun episode, but not super fun.
We drugged people. We did technically active things.
Madeline and the we're still evil gang. You're did a lot of things.
But yeah, I guess that was the problem with Max. Since he went to the good side, he didn't really get to plan stuff anymore. He just had resources like a hack.
I know.
Yeah, I just got to win.
Yeah, it's almost as if the bad guys plan things and set things into motion, and the good guys react. Huh? I wonder who's written this before.
I mean, also, let's be honest, it's not like I wasn't planning things and setting things into motion. I just had planned a thing, had set it into motion, and was just waiting for the boulder to run down the hill.
Now, Pat, how many stars out of 50 are we giving episode 4?
So I'm not going to give this a 40 either. I'm going to say, it went according to plan. Was the plan good? And did the plan, entertain everybody, including myself? I think, a little bit of both there. So I'm going to give myself maybe a 37 on this one.
All right.
But I love, honestly, the best part of this entire campaign for me was probably the Madeline and James pre-session planning phase, in which, like, I had a lot of deep conversations with Matt, or deepish, like superficial-ish conversations with Madeline, and there's one Mariah NPC that like got a little bit of screen time later named Purple, who was basically like, "Oh, hey, you're pretty cool. Thanks for joining the rebellion. You're such a nice lady." To Madeline for like the entirety of
those guys either. I'm trying to
break
Yeah, Clarice was manipulating the shit out of her guards and all of the people she met and pretending to be like an innocent who was thrust into this position of great danger.
Yes. So that facade had to drop, which was also provided by Seamus. Oh, and it introduced Seamus. Honestly, one of my favorite characters from the entire campaign. He was such a dick.
Seamus, what's his last name? Several times.
Seamus, not Google.
He was literally like his name even was changed. He was seeing Stroke Seamus on his token in one episode.
Sean Lee, how did you fuck that up so bad?
So this is the episode where to kick off the bat, like the first thing that happens is Max rolls up and recruits Horner. Space turbulence happens. Ooh, crazy.
Yes.
Horner acquired. We cut over to the stop by the White Shuttle. Genocide plans and equipment are acquired, and then we leapfrog past them while they are parked there, and we begin the planning and the awkward scenario where we, like, in front of all of the other players, plan how we intend to stop them.
The leapfrog thing honestly saved the campaign, I think.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting just to have to play catch up.
I'm so stupid. I can't believe I didn't just go for the engine room.
I mean, to be fair, your objective was to get the genocide plans, so, like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter if you can't escape after that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you did one better. You joined the winning side.
But yeah, so there's the turret stuff, there's the people stuff, there's all sorts of things that happen, and
yeah, it does make me question, like, the enemy response in this section, even though you guys won. Like, if I had gone traitor like Max, it would have been like, gosh, should we wait for them to come attack? I'm like, maybe we should just go, tell their guards who accompany them at all times. or do like literally anything more proactive than just waiting around in the intake
Yeah,
room.
I don't know how you guys slipped your guard. Because, like, I know that Max's whole thing was that, like, I was Max's guard, and Horner's thing
We
was that
drugged
Han
our
was the guard.
guards. That happened
Yeah, no,
last
we-
episode. We
Yeah.
baked drug
Yeah.
cookies and dressed Lucian up in a maid outfit and handed out those cookies.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was amazing. And the main costume was just, mwah. I did not come up with that. How did I not come up with that? I think that was you, Madeline.
Yeah, well,
Or
because
did
people
you
kept
come up
describing Lucian's character as like femboy.
Yeah, and it fit perfectly. You did a marvelous job there. You should do it more often. I highly encourage it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
We
So
said
there's the plan, there's the fight. This goes down. It's still going down after the break. And that's when the face heel turn occurs at some point during that whole shenanigans.
Heel face.
Heel face turn, whatever.
Which one's the good one?
I come
Oh,
out
heel
of here.
face. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
probably heel
heel.
to a face.
Yeah, heel, bottom,
Yeah,
on the floor.
I vaguely recall Inmata like threatening to murder Clarice for no apparent reason in a slightly jarring moment. I think that the entire Inmata character concept has fallen apart by this point. Completely unspooled.
She just ended up being kind of like meat too. It's slightly.
Yeah, no, like all of the
Dude,
interesting.
this time actually meaty.
Yeah, like I don't think that I can blame Pat for that. I think that ultimately, like I had too loose of a character concept, and I had too overlapping of a character concept, but simultaneously, I simply loved the character idea too much to do the thing that I was planning to do with this campaign, which is play a character and then have it die and then play another one.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, well, also
Kind of
playing a
scary.
robot makes it difficult because they're really tanky.
Right, which is
There's
also
some
I
weird
loved the fuck out of it. Like Inmata was such a badass, holy shit. Like by the end, she could just sit there and like pump bullets down range, full autoing every time because there's no reason to ever not when you're a synth, and just like, slaughtering your enemies.
The robots were really interesting to me from a like roleplay perspective. Is you got these huge mechanical advantages, but at least in this campaign, like they were subordinate to other players, which seemed like a really potentially awkward situation. I tried hard, and probably like Clarice would have been more prescriptive of me, but I didn't want to take away James's autonomy as a player. So it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like I kind of expected there to be a bit more of that with like me and Max, but like they just didn't happen because
That's true. He
And
really
Mata-
didn't do that either.
Mata never really had a reason to disagree with like what he was saying to do, like, and he also didn't give me very strict orders, so like.
Yeah, to be honest, I enjoyed having you, but I didn't have a lot of things. I'm like, yes, I'm really glad I have this person with me right now. Aside from when we got in fights together,
Yeah, which I mean
I
was
did
more or less,
enjoy when I got to send you off to go check on that thing with everyone else while I went to the orgy. That's the one time I was really glad I had someone I was 100% sure was in my corner.
Oh,
But we'll
God,
talk
if
more
only
about
I
that
got a
once we
chance
get
to
to
look
that
at
session.
Inmata's code.
The over-
Oh fuck! The party would have been destroyed.
Yeah, so the group, there's like the hangar stuff.
Party.
I made this whole hangar map expecting us to actually go there. We didn't. We fight our way under the bridge by 3 hours and 20, and we have dealt with the enemy ship, episode 1 style. We have Phantom menaced the enemy ship by the end of this process. And I leave the camera for feedback phase just on the little downshaft that I made for no particular reason. Yeah, I think that's the episode.
We actually did use that hangar. I just made it into the hangar where the Dr. Huang's ship was being held.
Yeah, we did. So it all worked out. But yeah, I think unless anybody particularly wants to savor Seamus's last words, I think that's episode 5.
Yeah, I don't even remember what his last words were. They were insignificant, whatever they were.
Yeah.
I think it was basically "fuck you."
Yeah. So how rigid would you say this episode was? I don't think you or I had any illusions about us getting further in the plot. Did you expect to be?
I don't think. No, it was. This was kind of middling. Like it more or less followed all the beats that I expected it to, because I set it up in a way that it was like, how else would this be resolved? Well, I guess this.
I'd
So
call
like a
this.
chub.
But,
Yeah, it's a half chub or chub. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like every single part of the inside of this was unplanned and entirely based on character interaction.
No.
So it hit the beats that I wanted it to, almost by accident.
All
But
right.
it did exactly what it needed to.
All right, so we call this the chub or the half chub.
I don't know what the difference is.
A chub is when you're kind of like your dick. It's not completely flaccid, but it's definitely not rigid. But it's got more structure to it and more signs than it normally does. A half chub is like that, but even less.
Okay, so fully erect transhuman penis. Got it.
All right, so I think we go with chub for the rigidity, and now the stars. I'm gonna say there were parts of this that really I didn't like, and there are parts of this that I really did like, and I think that the parts that I liked kind of outshone the rest. I think I'm gonna punch it up to a 42.
Okay.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy number.
How about that? Oh, hey, nice.
Yeah, Madeline, how did you feel about the stars on this episode? Because I know that this was not necessarily like a great.
See, this one. Yeah, I think this was my personal least favorite episode, so it's like a 25 for me. Because I think obviously like player enjoyment was low because I basically spent like a 3-episode arc losing. And this is the culmination of Little Kitty's job before I could really do anything cool. But I mean, I think it made sense. But also, like from a plot perspective, like it did make a certain amount of sense. But some of the things didn't feel as natural from just a perspective of people who did know the whole story. Like with Seamus, I had no idea there was an IO agent there, and I'm not sure that I really cared that there was an IO agent there. And then like when he betrayed us, there was no emotional impact because it was just like it's an IO agent. Like he's literally the second IO agent to betray us today. They're all dicks apparently. Like, I think the problem is that this campaign evolved around like trying to strip away illusions, but I guess I just assumed that like being an upper level Fenrir Core executive, like I'm so cynical already that like it's kind of hard to like even reach a deeper level of cynicism. Like I kind of expected everyone to betray us because that's what happened. Like it wasn't really a surprise. So maybe like building up some trust earlier would have helped in terms of story. But I guess it's kind of like you didn't know that Max was going to walk. So like if Max had vouched for this guy and then been trustworthy, I would have been more surprised when he betrayed us.
Yeah, because like Max's objective was to exfiltrate this guy.
Originally.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So Pat.
Okay. So we covered rigidity. What I think of the session as a whole. I think this was kind of middling, but I think middling verging on good. I'm sure Madeline's opinion on the matter diverges a lot from everybody who wasn't getting shit on the entire session. I don't know. I think, this definitely was not a winning session for Madeline's character, or probably her as a player. That might have felt pretty bad, and I maybe shouldn't have geared this towards
we get the
that
preamble.
much.
But think
overall.
about the thing as a whole. I already gave my perspective. I'm
35.
scared that other people don't get to give their opinions.
35 or 40, somewhere between them, maybe 38. I'll give it a 38.
All right, we're giving it 30. I almost gave it a 68. 38. 83. No, 38. Okay, boom. Max.
What up?
Yeah, I think this is actually the biggest spread on ours so far. But yeah, what 50 out of how many out of 50 for stars on episode 5? The episode
I
where
have to give it pretty high marks. I'm gonna have to go like 42, 43, somewhere in that range.
Okay, I also gave it 42.
I recognize how it might have been for some other players, but I mean, I was kind of the star of the show, and that's always fun. And I got to win, which was also fun. but more than that, I feel like it was a dramatic finale to that period.
Yeah, the arc. Max is
play.
Max. Max is stuff.
Yeah.
And I found some of the character interactions to be really good, and just I think overall went very well.
This is also the Inmata goes off the rails end of the arc, where like I semi decommit to a vision of Inmata which is so completely removed from what she was supposed to be as to be unrecognizable, where like she's motivated to kill the other like synths of her model. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's more of a weak roleplay on my part, though. I think this was great. I think that, I think that's it. This is the biggest gulf in, of course, our stars, but this probably comes out to the fact that, like, you know, the
would you go so far as
like,
to say,
other
like,
than like the personal experience? Well, it was reasonable, like in the PvP bit, but then like the bridge combat was still kind of pointless. Like,
Yeah.
no, yeah, you're right. I mean,
it was a cool moment for Inmata to like go ham on everyone, but it didn't feel like very grounded in her character, which Lee said. Now that she really had one that we knew about before, since we didn't really meet her.
Yeah, like in one sense, honestly, if I had just let myself never think about the fact that I was like departing from the concept again, I think it would have been less of a problem, because like there wasn't really a concept. The only thing she'd done is like obey orders and like make bad quips because I had the banter trait, and I felt compelled to force that meme, even though I don't think anybody ever benefited from the banter trait that allows me to reduce people's stress. But you know, yeah. So that's episode 5. That's a wrap. We're on to episode 6.
The Phantom Menace. Wait.
13.
This is
23 minutes before usual.
This is the episode. This is the orgy episode. This is more or less the breather. This is the breather episode before the final, before the climax.
That is
showdown.
Yeah. That's basically the premise behind it.
Yeah, so we spend the first like third on the Hell's Heart. We spend the rest of it on the planet. We talk about a plan that gets completely forgotten about. Some long-ranging intrigue regarding the Rast and Khan and the fate of the frontier worlds does get established here, and I feel like this episode almost has more value to the canon of Changed Stars than it did to the players at the time, which isn't something that like you're shooting for, but at the same time is a redeeming quality in my mind.
I will confess that is entirely what I was shooting for, and it was not a redeeming quality.
Okay, but in terms of rigidity, though, you'd still call that rigid.
Yeah, no, this episode also more or less went exactly as I planned.
So we call this,
which is to say, bad idea, but you know, it happened.
Do we call this full mast, or do we call this Full Metal Jacket?
You know, this one of all things should probably have a lot more to do with penises than normal. So I don't know.
Okay, we should call this one "The Other People in the Subway Are Getting Uncomfortable."
Yes.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
You have all been there, right, guys? That's not just me.
I'm from the cities. Yes, I am perfectly aware of what you're referring to. God, I hate it.
All right, yeah. So, now we hit the stars. I will come out shooting 25. Saved by the orgy. But, you know, still half. Madeline, thoughts?
So this is a 35 for me, so that's 25 for maximum player enjoyment, because I had a lot of fun, and Clarice got to do like all of the things and run around and basically pointless intrigues. But the planning part is brought down by the fact that it was a little dull, and also like it got totally jossed after this to like don't have a planning session if none of the planning is going to be relevant. So like in retrospect, like that wasn't really a thing in the session, but in retrospect that became a problem with the session, that it doesn't really need to be a thing because it wasn't relevant.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, and I agree I should have implemented the planning phase more in later sessions when you actually enacted the things that you were talking about here. I kind of flubbed that a little bit, and I'm definitely sorry about that. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun during this one, and I think this was a good session. I know not everybody was deeply involved in everything that was happening, and I really failed Shin in this one. But I think, you know what? I'm going to give it a solid 69. I mean, what's half of 69? 30, wait, 34?
34.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give this a 34.5, Lee.
All right, 34.5 stars. The half stars, presumably Hawaii. Max, hit me with it. It's the orgy
Okay, if
episode.
we're gonna make a state a half star, clearly it has to be Oklahoma. But let's move on.
It's all Ohio? It always was.
Always has been. Ohio gets 3 stars. This episode was very interesting. Yeah, at the end of the day, there was a lot of planning. And even though the planning was kind of interesting, I never like spending too much time planning. At the end of the day, I'm always just like, can we just fucking do it?
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, exactly. To bring up some of the points I mentioned about the orgy sequence earlier, to actually mention them now that it's the session time. I didn't design my character to do that sort of stuff that much. I didn't mind doing it, but he's very goal oriented. So when you presented this to him, he was like, I'm in the middle of like fucking trying to, win a war. I'm good. Like, trigger fish to fry. But when you gave him a reason to go, that was a fun sequence. Not sure how well it played on stream.
Yeah, I have no fucking idea.
Yeah,
But I guess at the end of the day,
it's like that moment in a camp was made properly where we ended up in a drug-fueled orgy, and like it felt normal at the time, but then we look back, like, oh, that's kind of problematic in terms of player consent and things that like the story drives them to do.
Yeah. Fair.
I mean, I was definitely under the impression that Max was still kind of playing, as Max put it, Captain Party or Captain. I don't know what
That's when he was going to be more soldier, but then he saw Lucian taking that rank. I know that Rainbow.
That role in BL was like, how well that role play on stream? I didn't think very well.
Yeah, fair. So you chose something that you think would work better for the stream, and I salute you for it, Captain Private. Brevet, Lieutenant First Class, Party Bottom. But yeah, stars.
I mean, that character's still in my back pocket, and they probably, honestly, in certain ways, would have worked better for the original concept of this, as they would have actually been an innocent person relative to the sort of terrors of the Empire. Yeah. Rather than my character, who was very much in the Madeline alignment of like, I know everything's fucked up, and I co-signed it.
Yeah. So what are you out of 50 episode 6?
That's a good question. I'm gonna put that one in like the 41.
Okay. All right.
That's yeah. I think episode 6 is competing with episode 5 for Vastest Gulf. I think episode 6 is winning. But yeah, no, fair. I think that brings us to episode 7, the beginning of the end of the series. Episode 7, A New Hope. Of course, this is the return with the elixir, and the elixir is war.
Which sometimes changes.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like we should play a little bit more from the episode, but I don't know what from episode 7 would be worth like the 5 to 10 minutes.
Us killing the admiral.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, that's actually a perfect scene. Holy shit! I need to go find that.
The best scene in this entire show.
Yeah, no, that as in the platonic ideal of Rigid Stars, that scene remains unchanged beat for beat.
Damn straight.
Yeah, so they've returned. They've said that they've achieved the objective. What's his face is dead. They're playing like everything's fine, and then I'm going to minimize.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
I'm just going to let it play.
Makes like a
no, go for it.
make me feel
In a lot
guilty
of
for not having
games,
the
like
stream open.
a middle schooler helping set up for the dance, and he just loads up all 6 of these and drops them down.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
As we're walking by, I can't recall. I remember we messed with this a little bit, but is it operational?
It is indeed fully operational. It's like this battle
I
station.
assure you, this battle station is fully operational. I can't do the Palpatine voice right now, and I apologize to our viewers.
They're not happy.
So, the Admiral sits you down and he says,
Terrible.
please inform me as he closes and locks the doors, by the way, from behind his comfy chair. And he says,
Wow.
I know. Now, the fate of our friend Roger Ross. What truly befell him? I heard this woman say something along the lines of thrusting himself into space or something. Care to elaborate? Somebody who has authority here? He says, looking directly at Shin. Or,
Devin Horner.
Devin Horner.
Um,
Brofest.
We've run into some alien ships along our way, specifically at listening station, and during a light skirmish. Unfortunately, we took some damage. That was very unfortunate of Roger Ross in his attempt to fix the problem.
I see.
He was shot out like a nuke out into space, and unfortunately not able to recover him.
Tragic. You know, it was a
But
good
we
friend of mine.
kept on with our mission. But we kept on with our mission, and we made our ways to the Hell's Heart.
Excellent. I mean, obviously, I see that. So, tell me, what happened to the Hell's Heart? Why was it out of commission for so long? And is the captain still with us? He looks at you like this.
Captain Roger Ross is not, but I'm assuming you're talking about Khan.
Yes.
Remember, Khan did tell Devin that they were not supposed to, they were supposed to make sure he didn't come back alive.
Yeah.
Khan is also no longer with us. He has been dealt with.
Good night, Jordan.
Excellent. Well,
Good night.
would appear that you have done an admirable job, or an admirable job in your duty to the human empire. Excellent work. Then I will send in the boarding team and we'll investigate your ship. We'll be I will be thrilled to find it no longer in the hands of a treacherous man such as Captain Khan.
There's some things you should know before you board the ship, or at least you give the order for the boarding of the ship, just so that there's no confusion or misinterpretations.
What is
just
it?
to
He
save-
says, increasingly irate.
There are still crew members on the Hell's Heart. It was not
Did they
empty.
see what you did? Do they know that you? Well, do they know what happened to Captain Khan?
I mean, I can't tell you in full confidence, yes, because we have not interviewed and debriefed every crew member. There was a lot of them, and we thought it would be best to bring it back.
Indeed. How did he die? Did you have to kill him, or was he already dead when you got there?
I opened fired on
Did
the
we ever
bridge.
decide
It
this?
was
I don't
much
think we
fun.
have.
I don't know if you have. You can feel free to out of character briefly discuss.
I am. If you guys don't come up with something quickly, I'm going to say that I open fired on the bridge and it was much fun.
Then they would
Because that's
obviously
true.
know that we killed him. I'm gonna go with Captain Khan welcomed us in, and then unfortunately he suffered a heart attack, the next night, leaving the ship without, a commander. But we were able to ensure that they got back here.
Ah, a heart attack. Was it you that did the deed then? Sounds like a woman's work to me. Poison or whatever.
Sounds like women's work. It's
Well-
classic.
I'm sure if Captain Reese had been there,
Knives can cause heart attacks
settling,
just as easily as poison.
Alas, he'd already perished at that point.
Oh, admirable work. Admirable work. Admirable work.
Such a fucking sexist.
I love that.
He's such a cocky asshole. Yeah. So he commends you on your job then, and he says, "Excellent, excellent. So there's still a crew, and I
Is that
suppose
the second time I make that pun? God
they
damn.
are
I'm so
all
horny.
in working order then. Fantastic. You've
I'm so
done,
horny.
a wonderful deed for the human
I like to
empire.
think of
and
it as an
shall be
admiral
rewarded
feature.
handsomely for this.
Fuck You're not.
One
Yeah,
final
handsomely how?
well, accommodations and medals and such, obviously. The normal things that we hand out to our fantastic or our commendable soldiers. The golden hearts and such, the golden wings. And he says, one more thing. What ended up causing the Hell's Heart to exit surf space with the rest of our fleet? It is still rather suspicious to me that it did so. Was it the doing of Captain Khan, and did he have mutinous crew?
Not
The
sure.
exact
How should
nature
we know?
is,
We weren't there.
Captain Khan claimed it was a technical malfunction, but we checked it out later, and I think technical malfunction was code for stalling until he thought of a better plan.
Ah, what a fool! He shouldn't have tampered with such things. The human empire has long arms, and the reach of our law is all encompassing. Excellent work.
Yeah, no, I gotta commend
yeah, so
Madeline here. She played this
he's
admiral with the
gotten
book.
from you all that he particularly needs to get. He presses a button and goes onto the intercom, and he says, "Well, I suppose now it is time for us to undergo the normal searching procedures."
And then
and then Pat DC's.
Oh yeah, the excellent moment in the middle of this when Pat lost internet connection.
Amazing.
Unlucky.
No.
Alright, let's talk about our plan.
Yeah.
Are we killing this
also,
guy?
Madeline has pointed out that there has been slight changes to how this battle is going to work in the planning session. Unfortunately, Pat and I didn't have 100%
Oh, I forgot
information
about
at the planning session, and just to let you know.
That's fine, but yeah, is there anything else we need to know that we would already know in
Right,
character?
yeah, so the
but
battle
because
plan.
we don't know it.
The battle plan, as I understand it, and Pat is the DM, so I'm not sure how this is going to evolve in roleplay versus set up beforehand or evolve from complications. Is
Oh wow, you just out
scrubbing out
us.
Sanchez.
Out us right
Your job
there,
is
dude.
to
Damn.
hack the father and then hold the nerve center, because the nerve center can be used to block father's control of other places. To do this, you're going to need to bring in a strike force. The people who went out into the docking area, convenient next to the tram station, have already handled that. So you have a vanguard who are ready to seize control of the northern tram and pump across 9 squads. Additionally, you are going
Ah,
to...
yes, the nerve
well,
center. We definitely
side
did not watch
you see
Evangelion
a frozen image of Pat,
before
or
we
did
were
I
doing
do?
this entire thing. Totally
Hi.
did.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah,
did
well,
not
I'm
happen.
reading.
Yeah.
You are incredibly pixelated.
You were
I
out.
can hear Pat.
Yeah.
Why is my internet doing this right now? Ah, Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yo, Jor, hey.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Also, new development. Madeline is now the GM.
Oh wow.
Yay!
Do you want me to?
No.
It's like a
Yay.
I'm just gonna manually move you because it wouldn't put Pat right into your slot right now anyway. I forgot that there was like a fraction of technical difficulties in the middle of this scene. The scene is so good at retroactively.
Me too.
Sorry about that, guys. The worst. So, yeah, I wonder why it's doing this. I gotta figure this out. Hogging up the internet or something. Anyway, assuming you can all hear me, right? And
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Not talking to myself like I was earlier. Okay, so how much of what I said did you hear? Did you catch the part where Sanchez, Admiral Sanchez, popped open the intercom and summoned
Literally,
his
you
goons to
said
go
he
check
turned-
out the?
You said he turned on the intercom and then you cut out for me.
Okay, yeah. So he turns
I mean,
on the
I
intercom.
heard the part where you said that he did the standard thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
and
cut
he-
off
he
right around
was like,
normal or standard. You didn't give any
Yes, we
details
shall
of what
engage
the
in
standard was, I don't think. but-
standard procedure. Yeah, search the ship, make sure that everything's in working order.
Alright.
Send in a maintenance crew, debrief the current crew, etc.
And Mata's gonna give like Meat the look that says, "Is it bonking time?"
Do you wanna
Not
block
with
this
the
guy?
intercom open. That's just silly.
You
Presumably
guys
this
probably
all,
talking in.
this all transpires via
Crowd.
Wi-Fi.
Amazing.
An infinitesimally
Yeah,
small
so
light
the
just,
well,
like,
he
glints.
does. Yeah, he does take his hand off the intercom and he says, "Who wants whiskey?"
Me. I demand a whiskey. And when I say in character is I could go for a glass.
Yes, he pulls open. He goes over here to his fancy things, and he's he picks up a particularly
By the way, I
aged,
don't like whiskey,
bottle
period.
of whiskey, and he starts pouring into glasses and
though.
says, "All right."
I use it as
I enjoy a
one,
glass of
2,
bourbon.
3, 4.
Yeah, so
And
there was drinking
5
bourbon. I
glasses.
think
Did I do it right?
Juan was drinking
Assuming
bourbon.
the robot types don't drink.
Yeah, probably.
Buoy.
There's only
Well,
one
I use it
robot.
as like a
Yeah,
symbol
he
of
doesn't know him as a
antagonists
robot.
in my
He
game.
said
Oh, yeah.
five. He said
So
five.
he can't-
That's the party
That's
minus me.
through his scanner.
I'm
I
upset.
feel like that would.
Is he just not? He's not. Yeah, he's
we
not.
did- we
he's not
did-
counting calories. Wow.
Mhm.
women
Yeah,
can't
no,
drink
that's
whiskey.
yeah, no. He yeah,
Yes,
he hands a robot. He hands the robot a whiskey. He hands Devin a whiskey. He hands Lucian a whiskey. Harris and then Mata, and then he's
I mean, I assume Mana still looks like a
Back down.
woman, right? With the
Yes.
helmet on.
oh, no. In Mata's
Yeah,
a guy, I think, right? I don't know. Wait,
Wait,
it
really?
was- I forget what gender in Mata is.
Mata's got a lot of body armor on.
Yeah,
so,
and
you
Mata
can't
Mata
really
is
tell
the
from
formless
visual.
gender-free version, but in Mata is like,
Yeah.
oh gee,
In Mata
kinda-
looks like this.
yeah, and Mata's like, huh, gonna have to take off
Mhm.
this cumbersome helmet to drink this, and kind of like looks at Harris meaningfully, like, is
Huh?
this the play boss?
Wait, what gender
Mata's
is it?
not gonna
Have we
happen
ever
until
actually
someone says
interpreted
something.
this?
Behind
Female.
Admiral Sanchez, I just
No, shit.
Hey, wait, hello? Can you guys hear me?
cock my head.
Oh, hi!
As
Hi,
I
Rainbow.
as the knife.
It was that yeah, we're watching the Admiral scene, and I forgot how long it is, and also the fact that it was disrupted by like multiple Pat disconnects and technical difficulties. But yeah, it's always funny when like you're here now, but you're also here in the videos. When I first heard like Rainbow's voice, I was like, wait, does Rainbow say something at this point?
I thought it was in the game.
But yeah, hey Rainbow.
Are we watching a video?
We're
Right,
watching,
right,
yeah.
right,
So the
watch-
stream right now is watching episode 7, and we're just watching the Admiral kill scene, and then we'll probably we don't watch like a whole bunch of stuff for a long time because that would take too long. But we felt this scene in particular was worthy of being watched.
Should I just pull up the
Yeah.
stream then, or?
Yeah, like if you pull up the stream, it'll be on the delay, but you'll see what we're watching.
Yeah, true.
And then I'm sure that you have plenty to sound off on about Lucian and such, and you can help us rate out of 50 stars this episode.
Sure.
Sure. There's gonna be like 5 different variants of you saying sure in the Rainbow soundboard.
Oh my god. Lee wants to make a soundboard with sounds of me talking.
Yeah, I do. It would be massively effective and very humorous. A very expressive voice, Rainbow.
Hmm.
Yeah, the various different pogs.
She did the thing.
We're Lee zooming the video.
Okay, go ahead.
He slides down my arm into holding position.
I mean, I guess there's no way to prevent him from screaming that way. Well, actually, I mean, at least wait, like, while he's drinking the whiskey and then stab.
Yeah,
So,
I was just gonna say, Lucian walks up to the counter and like walks to his desk and like sits on the edge of his desk and like reaches over to cheers him.
Yeah,
Can I
okay.
distract him here to give some kind of bonus?
Oh,
Yeah, give me a manipulation.
I mean, that ass up on the desk though.
Nice.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm not even going to make this contested. You provide a nice distraction, which will give anybody attacking him a +1.
And then, but like right as he's like drinking, you know, like we dink glasses across the desk, kind of thing, and then we both go for a sip.
Yes, he he goes up and he takes a sip and he
I nod to meet.
swishes it around in his mouth. Ah, it's such a good.
No, like, but like as he's literally as he's drinking, can someone go for it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
mean,
think
but
that meat's gonna hit him.
I'm waiting for the roll. Yeah, no, he doesn't audibly do anything. He just sips it like.
So it's just a +1 to my attack, right?
Yes, you get a +1 from that one rank in manipulation, one success in manipulation.
Inmata is also going to be on the standby to like whip off her helmet and use it to stove in his skull in case this is not a one and done.
Amazing.
I mean, you know.
Okay.
That's 3 damages into his neck.
Ah, yes. So let me see.
Your
That's
Eviscerator. Nice
is
name.
Ah,
There's not
yes.
like an insta-kill mechanic in this game?
No, there is not, I don't think. He is stabbed and he goes. Yeah, no, it doesn't kill him. Anybody want to do something else?
Actually,
Actually,
hit him at the same time.
wait. I think
Okay.
it might be initiative time.
You know how Han Solo does the whole like
Well, I
fire
think
first thing from sitting?
I think Imada should get like a hit at the same time, right?
Yeah, so Inmata had like been like stancing up because like very intentionally, I think James and I were like in this man's peripherals, waiting for the moment. So like when she sees the stab go in, she will just like hop up and then just volleyball spike
I love how I
her
tried to
helmet
get this to
off
be an
and
initiative
into this
thing,
man's
but like
skull.
nope.
Nice. Okay.
That was so
Go
dumb
for
of
it.
me.
Give me
I should have let
a
it happen.
give me a close combat, or give me a normal combat. With
I didn't think you were trying to.
Bonus
be honest.
1 damage 2 thing.
I mean, I was suggesting it.
It's such a shit job. I didn't even think you were doing the
reasonable.
job.
All right, I'm assuming that's all into damage. He goes, and then he bashed down onto his desk, and his head is punctured by his equipment here, and he starts.
I mean, if we don't
to
one-shot
bleed
him, then it should be
into his
initiative.
computer. He is broken, but he's still blinking and capable of some gurgling.
Well, how did he break?
Oh, he's broken. Like he's going to die very soon.
Yeah, can I stab him too?
Okay. Does everybody want to stab Caesar?
Is this yeah? Like
I'll
is
give
this-
everybody a chance.
You know,
I'm not going to get dirty.
You know there's gonna be-
Admiral. How inappropriate.
you know there's gonna be a you know there's gonna be a really like poor taste painting by some edgy painter in the Trinity. That's like the stabbing of Julius Caesar, but it's this. Julius Caesar like
So
straight
when
off
you-
to the side.
When you land a hit on somebody,
That works.
when they're broken, they're dead, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
This
You
scalpel,
slit his throat.
finish
Or no,
him.
actually,
love
technically, I
that.
believe
Yeah,
it's
another-
they roll another break, but
Yeah, they roll
essentially,
another critical
yeah.
injury.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in this
so
environment, I
you will
believe this is
Go into the gallery on
Sure.
Mars of war art.
Come on.
Fuck, you're calling it right now.
Yeah,
God
he's
damn
fucking
it, stop.
whatever. You slit his
I want
throat.
you to
Alright,
experience it.
so what happens is Meat stabs him while he's drinking, and Modelage bashes him with his head, and then Lucian finally slits his throat as Devin Horner looks on like, and Carl Harris prepares to place the fourth and final blow with his gun. Decides it was not worth it, maybe cocks
Stop
it on his
being so
shoulder and looks
Thomas
over like,
Savage.
job well done. And Clarice Ritter sits there, hands folded, pushes up her glasses.
They shine.
All according to plan.
Oh,
According
according
to
to
the
the
knife folds back into my
Puts it
arm,
back
I do
into
the
its little,
shush.
like,
to everyone.
Shoulder
to
holster.
everyone.
Armpit holster.
Yeah.
Madeline, please. But Lucen like reaches over the desk and like picks up the whiskey he was drinking, and he like offers it to Clarice.
Thank you.
And Mana's like, wow, I really need to attend more human meetings.
That's so edgy. I love it.
Aww, I like that.
This is known as a hostile takeover.
Wow.
Like, no,
Mana
this is
actually got a
like-
single solid bant.
Horner's gonna swing around to the console and to just make sure that there's no alarm, there's no incoming comms. Like no one's gonna find out immediately.
Yes.
something just went
Would
down.
Devin Horner see any notification if there were, I don't know, a very unexpected rupture?
Shit is like so focused on like making sure we don't forget about the rest of us are like cinematic moment, cinematic moment.
Yeah, no, true.
Yeah, not that we care about that.
Yes. Question. So can Mead imitate the Admiral's voice? If you
Yeah,
like,
no.
do
I
sound
fucking.
clips?
Oh god, I love that.
Yeah, it really gets there at the
Probably
end, but I forgot the
manipulation
beginning where it's
say
like, oh, we
anything
should have
extra,
probably
but-
agreed at a cover
Yeah,
story
it would
before
probably
coming
be
into
a
the
manipulate
changes
and
to
a
the
manipulate three.
basic
Or yeah.
and
So basically, no.
yeah, you do
whatever.
a better job than that.
Sorry.
I could do a better job.
Yeah, planning things.
Amazing.
If only we had like
Alright,
an
haven't been
entire
able to tell.
episode
Meat is
devoted
not
to that,
particularly
and we
personable.
totally thought about this beforehand.
So
My news quite liked you.
It's like a better moment. I think the moment
like
comes
that.
either next
They're
session
just
or later
like
this
you.
session where like we try to lie to the like room
So,
full of
um,
random human empire not guards and like we have three
For
different lies that come out at once.
Yeah, it's
There's
Succession.
chambers in that north center that aren't the father chamber.
I was
And
like, which
this
one of you
door
is
right
tall?
north of us,
It
we were just
doesn't matter. They're
spatially,
fucking running
takes us into the bottom right
or
room.
shooting, depending.
Just so everyone
Fuck, I
can
forget
be
if they
aware
tried to
of that.
run or
What does
shoot
that mean,
first.
bottom right room?
Either way, they all died.
yeah, let me
We got them to the first
yeah.
one.
I'll-
They
I'll
shot
take
at
a
first,
quick
and
map
then we
and,
like
like,
killed like
leave-
almost all but one at the same time.
Yeah, you're right.
What scene?
I think it's later in this episode.
Actually,
it's pretty
when
soon
you
after
when you
this.
walk out into like the very
Yeah.
next room, and then you like firing squad the random like personnel. Yeah.
Computer nerds or whatever.
Yo, fuck IT.
Oh yeah, no, because we just walk in there. It's like hello, daka 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 daka. Like at this point,
Yeah,
we
they
can
were like, yo, no. They walk in there, they're like, hello, we're from the Capitol. We're here to kill you. Look at all this blood on our shirt. We need business. Leave right now. And they're like, ah. And then you guys just open
and
fire.
its fighters are pouring out. Yeah, and like
Don't
space
worry.
battle stuff
They're-
happens.
We are the.
And then the beginning of this encounter, which is, shall we say, the most poggers of encounters from this
I-
series.
That is the thing that you said.
Yeah, because I mean, RS, NNR, IS.
What is? How does Poggers relate to this league? I don't.
Because Rainbow was pogging the whole time. Not the whole time.
Oh.
Was I?
Okay, fair.
Rainbow
I
was
don't
I? I don't know anymore.
Rainbow's here.
It was
with
a
us. Rainbow.
disproportionate amount of pogging.
True. No, I just remembered you mentioned that you liked the encounter. The encounter design, rather.
See.
I'm looking for it. I
Anyway.
can't remember what the fuck it's called. But it's the
Oh no, you can't find the battle map, the really cool one with Father.
mhm.
Ah, yes, the iRobot battle.
Yeah, IS Father. Okay, yeah, because at some point I started labeling them IS rather than RS. So yeah, basically this is like a light limited room with a whole bunch of like melee robot enemies that can hack synths. And they made an escalation enemy, which rather than a D6, and then you choose their attack, it's a 1D4, and then at certain points we bump that up by 1. So 1D4 plus 1, 1D4 plus 2 for progressively more dangerous attacks. And Clarice Ritter almost dies, and people do the trolley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember Rainbow, you saying that you really quite liked the tram setup.
Yeah, I think it was fun.
Yeah.
There's one map in this entire game that we did not actually show on air. Do you know what it is?
The brig?
No.
What?
You made a tram, Matt.
Oh yeah, the tram station. I thought about it after they'd already passed by the tram center. It's nothing to write home about. But here is the lost level files. You know, this would have been.
I mean, we might as well show it off right now, right?
This would have been the tram that you guys.
Now when? I mean, it really is nothing to call home about, but it is something that exists.
There's also future proofing for the fact that like Ichthys Station is supposed to be Ichthys Station. Ichthys Station is supposed to be like fairly like long ranging things. So I was figuring why not make more Ichthys Station stuff.
No, absolutely. Like Ichthys Station is still around to today. They've obviously taken down all the Nazi flags and shit, but a lot of the rooms are the same.
The Admiral's gold throne.
They probably fucked that up too, TBH. Like, it might be in, like, a war crime memorial, history museum.
It's around the brothel now. They figured the human empire would hate that the most.
So we have the arrival, we have the assassination, we have the entire sequence in the Father Corps, and then we have the slightly disjointed like military sequence across Scorpio sector, and then we end with there's an enemy squad to the south, and they're gonna like dispatch people to deal with it or whatever. And yeah, that's where we end. Pat, where would we put this on the rigidity scale? Because I think things wound up going more or less as we planned, right?
I think things went, a little bit less happened than I planned. This is not one of the ones that I'm going to, like, wholeheartedly shout to the hills. This went exactly like I planned it to. This was kind of like I had a general gist of how things were going to go, and things worked out more or less that way.
I'd
So,
say it operated in
I'd say this is more of a chug. Or if that's what we're calling them now. And I hate this, by the way, as a metric scale, and never again. But, maybe a chub.
Rainbow, to bring up to speed, we're basing this off of both rigidity and stars. Rigidity being how close to huge what we were going for.
Yeah, I know. You're fucking idiot. This is how
that's not what the...
That's exactly what Rainbow is thinking right now.
I know,
no matter what.
Rainbow just has just a low opinion of me. I feel so bad.
What? Stop! Wait, no.
Dude, we're messing around.
We agree with you, Rainbow. You don't need to backtrack. We're all on the same page here.
Yeah,
Lee's
we all think Lee's a fucking hack.
It's true.
Rainbow's like,
I digress. I give it.
We have to do a rigidity and
I give it
star rating on Lee.
I'm giving this the full America, 50 stars.
I thought this was a great session. I would.
Rainbow. Yeah.
I mean, I would say like 45 to 50 probably.
All right, 45 to 50. Maybe call it like a 47.
57, 58, yeah.
Oh man, the pre-extreme imperialism. Wait,
now Pat.
Never mind.
Actually, wait, no, Pat. We've been doing you. You're the creator. We've been doing you last. Madeline, what would you give this session?
I'd give it a 45. Like, I think this was the high point of the campaign. Most of the stuff worked out. The characters moved dynamically. But, subtracting a couple of points because the planning thing did affect, I think, my overall enjoyment of the execution because it was just so different. And then, kind of like the Admiral scene illustrated, some of the things we did need to plan for didn't happen. And some of the things we didn't need to plan for wasted, half a session.
Yeah.
And then we didn't really get the new information, so we were kind of, just stuck at certain points.
Fair? Max.
It's still really good.
Max, what would you give this out of 50?
Out of 50, it was all right. I don't think I liked it as much as some other people.
Right.
High 30s, 38, 39.
Yeah. Fair. Anything more to say about it, or?
I don't really have that much to say about it. It was so combat heavy.
That's
He was
fair.
kind of sidelined too, increasingly as we got later, because he wasn't a very combat-heavy character. He wasn't really plot relevant.
Yeah, I think the
My character
focus
was very much like Rock in the first half, doing all his shenanigans and stuff. And once we got into Ichthus Station, I'm like, well, I'm a non-combat character here. Well, I wasn't completely non-combat, but not nearly effective as combat as a lot of the other of the party. So I just kind of spent most of it like, well, hope this combat goes well. Good luck, everyone.
That's fair. Now, and also, Rain, we've already given your rating. Pat, what's your rating?
Yeah, no. So I have a lot in agreement with Max here. I think this maybe was the high point of the session for some, or the game for some. I don't think that this was my personal favorite. Yes, the Admiral scene, phenomenal. Everything else that happened in this session, I'm not sure. Like, I mean, okay, actually, the end fight was pretty good. It lasted way too long, but it was pretty good. Yeah, I'll give it a 40. I think this is probably the high point for me, but I don't think it really truly reaches the stars, and I don't really think as a whole the campaign did. But, you know, I think this may have been the highest mark. And I agree that I kind of, after giving, oh God, it sounds terrible because now I'm like literally in my head thinking, oh wait, this is exactly what I did. After I gave Max's character's time to shine, basically I sidetracked Max. So
Which,
yeah,
to be honest, isn't really that big of a deal. I didn't mind it at the time. I don't super mind it looking back at it because I did have an inordinate amount of like screen time, for lack of a better way of putting
and
it.
an inordinate amount, perhaps. Oh God, I'm as bad as Lee.
I wouldn't say it like that, but you can feel free to. But pretty much, I felt like I was very much a lead in the first half, so it wasn't really that big of a deal in the sequel, so to speak. My character had a smaller role. All the players want to do their part, and to be honest, I think it would have been taken a lot of finagling and I think compromising to make my character important and matter in a lot of these combats. So
yeah, that's fair.
The fact that I didn't upset me. I was just like, yeah, this is the character I chose.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but it could have been like the Inquisitor was a personal rival or something. Like there was also a
I could have.
Like,
I did not do anything with the Inquisitor character. I was actually kind of surprised that people thought the Inquisitor character was going to come back as like a big bad in the next episode because I was like, yes, this is a character.
I thought the plan was to have him be the enemy commander.
Yeah, no, he's basically the enemy commander, and that's more or less exactly what he did. And, like, you know, you didn't actually ever see him, but he was commanding troops off screen. And, you know, if ever you were like, who is telling these people how to act in such an intelligent manner? Yeah, I could say, oh, hey, look, there's this guy.
I think also after the feedback of the Wake Up episode 7, we decided we really didn't need to bog this down more in, like, the mass combat.
I never anticipated you guys fighting the Imperator.
Yeah.
Or like,
it's kind of weird when you introduce someone and like make them all villainous and like have us talk to them, and then we never see them again.
I think the payoff.
I recognize they served a mechanical purpose, so to speak, but like it is kind of weird when you set up even a minor villain and then just like, oh, and you're done.
They were supposed to be a Bioshock character, the kind of character who you hear about through radio transmissions and audio logs, but you only ever meet in person once.
Yeah, but we met them in person once.
You don't need that kind of character, though. Like, you didn't need to know the enemy commander. Like, I assume he never had a second in command.
We also didn't get any real progression or payoff from their audio logs. If every once in a while we heard a loudspeaker announcement in the station of them saying stuff, and as the battle goes more and more poorly, them getting more and more erratic and eventually, like, you know, shooting themselves, that would have been a payoff. It would have been pretty fucking grisly, but it would have been a payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Max, that is actually more or less how I anticipated that character being. It's just that I didn't want to. After fucking up and throwing in way too much monologue-y shit in the beginning, I was like, you guys really don't need any more of me, like, monologuing for prolonged periods of times. Like, you know, the Imperator's out there. He's probably doing all of these things like Max just said, but you don't need to see it. And I felt like at the time, and maybe this was the wrong call, that you guys wouldn't be interested in hearing, yes, this person is on the intercom telling people to do things, and it's going poorly, and the place is being overwhelmed, and this guy's really not handling it well.
Yeah. It's
I
also
feel
something
like
that, like, at
if
some point we could
you-
put into chat or something.
Yeah.
If you did it as long monologues, it definitely would have bogged things down. But if you did it as like a sentence, like, you know, attention troops, all who do not disobey direct orders will be shot. You know, just like a quick sentence thing to give an indication of general mood every round or so. That wouldn't have slowed things down much, but still give it a.
Yeah. I will say,
Feels very video gamey.
once we get through episode 8, we'll do the overall post-mortem. I definitely think that, like, there's a lot to be said there. I also like to primitively apologize. I think that I, like, over influenced the course of episode 8 and made it a full combat, and that I don't think anybody really enjoyed that. So, but yeah, here we come in at the beginning of episode 8. There's a bit of positioning and talking and setup. There's a squad to deal with of enemies. You know Huang is an enemy who's out there. There's some disbursement of troops. There's some action. There's some shooting. You guys take out humans pretty quickly. Our allies flank. You know, it's a fight. It's a series of firefights. It's a sequence which honestly makes a lot more sense in a game like Ada than a game like Alien RPG.
Here's the thing.
We have our great stand behind the filing cabinets. Like
Stand on cabinets.
stand on
Oh
Kabzabar.
my god.
Impale
so
on
much-
Kabzabar.
There's so much going on in that sentence.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I can't think of anything in particular to, like, really focus on in this video playback. If anybody has a preferred moment, we could go check it out.
I'm trying to think back.
Death thing?
The fleet.
This is the last session, right?
Yeah, this is the final session. You could bookend it with the monologue, because we listened to the other monologue.
Yeah, might as well.
Sure.
Think about, you know, it's a meditation on the villain.
Yeah. So bad for coming in late. Sorry, guys.
That's okay, Queen. Yeah, I mean, like, I didn't really know how this was going to go, because, like, I've never really done one before. I mean, we kind of did one for the Wistmore rewatch, but that was very different, because it wasn't a campaign. It was, you know...
Fucking circuits and shit on the sword arm with this hit. Like, if I get through the armor and can stunt. No, I do not. I do jack shit.
Alright, yeah, I try and, like, stop her. She bats me aside like a fly.
Tom and say, he doesn't do great speeches, and then you hear, fuck you, I'm dying. All tightener. You hear over the intercom,
Yeah, I'm trying to find, like, the timestamp, but it's not being agreeable with me here. 420, Lamau.
Yes, and then the end wrap up by Karen Marsh.
Yeah.
Who pisses the fuck out.
Oh, we can listen to some of
Kevin,
the
it is your
post-mortems too.
say,
Alright.
Oh, you mean like people's individual feedback?
Yeah. Well, like their
I get up.
individual like
I clap.
what do you call that? Like what their character does next kind of thing. Like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the where are
looks
they now?
back at Devin, like,
Yeah.
without beating an eye, and she's like,
Yeah, that is definitely like canon for the setting. So
yeah. The goon squad
Daka-
has arrived.
Daka. Move
It is,
Muka action, yes.
This is Clarice Ritter's turn.
They do be moving.
Okay. So,
You do
yeah,
have
I
that
mean,
one meter.
yeah, obviously
there.
the beat in front of him, like, let's see. I think it's gonna
So many
back
tokens
out
for
of
this
the range
map.
of her mech arm and then shoot her.
Alright, so you're gonna have the Undertaker do that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna like turn up the VOD a bit. Just...
So like stab and then someone else shoots?
I said shoot. Back up and shoot.
Alright.
Longevity.
Mm-hmm.
She falls out, or she climbs out of her mech, and she goes to cradle Dr. Huang. And
There it is.
Dr. Huang looks up at her and says, Take me to.
I like that we named one of those the
Little
Undertaker
window.
mid-session.
Mhm.
That's a pretty dope name. 10 out of
To see
10.
the stars. One
Oh, there we go.
last 5.
Don't do it. She's gonna blow out the window.
And Emily looks down at her and says, "Honey,
Shit, Lee, I talked over the monologue. Go back.
would
It's been incredibly hard. It's been incredibly hard to like pinpoint. Just...
Alright, everybody shut up.
Yeah, Twitch rods are pretty annoying.
take me to
That's tough.
a little window. I want to see the stars. One last 5.
Don't do it. She's gonna blow out the window.
And Emily looks down at her and says, "Honey, would it? I don't think we have time for that. But maybe would a hug work?" And they embrace as Dr. Huang leaves this world. And it is, well, I think the turn order, there's no real point in it now.
As Inmata spurs fluids and sees this touching display, her thoughts drift to Carl Harris, who she left to die, and you know, it begins to run back towards the room like shit, not really giving a fuck about her lover. Dripping goop the whole way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was honestly like, I feel like you did do a. I don't know if it's because you had 2 characters to cut off of, but I feel like that was really good. Even though the character hadn't really been around, like the end was powerful. Like I was almost kind of sad, even though I'm like, this is an evil genocidal piece of shit. You know?
Yeah, no, like she, you know, it's sympathy for the devil. Like she was an asshole and she deserved to die, but like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it was sad because she refused to change. Like,
Yeah.
maybe she and Emily could have had a better life, or Emily was pretty practical. Like, they could have been part of it.
I mean, like, you know, she was a little far gone by the beginning of the setting, but yeah. Totally. Exactly.
Alright. So yeah, Rigidity, Pat, I don't even remember what I was thinking going into this, to be honest.
With exception to the monologue that I had planned for her to say at one point or another, this did kind of go according to plan. I don't know that the plan was good. So Rigidity, pretty much perfect. Sorry.
Turgid? Or pretty much perfect.
Yeah, or I mean, well, turgid. I don't know. Whatever the fuck the metric is. Yeah,
we call it throbbing. We could,
oh my god.
turgid.
Sure.
Turgid. We leave it at turgid.
We could call it. It's been more than 3 hours and I need to see a doctor.
We call it throbbing, turgid.
Wait, do you actually have to see a doctor? Are you okay?
No, I'm fine. The
Just
whole joke
making it
is
like
every time they give a high
joke.
one, I give a more and more colorful description of how raging the boner is.
Yeah, like episode 6 of Turgidity was the other people on the subway are getting uncomfortable. But yeah, for me, I'm gonna call this 35 because, like, I don't know, like part of me doesn't disagree with it. It just took too long. It probably needed to be 1 fight rather than 2. Some other stuff like that. I kind of wanted to mop up the enemies with squads, but then I backed off the squad thing. Maybe it was all a bad idea. I don't know. 35 is my personal. Max, if you had to star rating episode 8, which you spent most of with an impaled leg.
I
Yeah,
feel like
it
Max
was
is gonna
kind
be
of
the lowest.
boring.
Yeah, you
Sure.
kind of didn't get much to do.
What would you?
So,
could you put a number on
I don't
that,
know,
Boeing?
like a 25.
All right.
I feel like I'm being really generous with these ratings, but I don't know.
Rainbow.
I mean, same. We're all kind of
Yeah.
Should be like a 3.
Maybe like 40.
Okay.
Yeah. Me, Adeline.
I'd give it a 30. Like, I really don't feel like we needed this combat. Like, the last one had these huge stakes, and this one, the stakes were really just our lives. And it was kind of like, at least during the combat, I felt like if these people weren't just getting mowed down, like if Dr. Huang had actually negotiated, like, I don't think the party would be willing to die for Clarice, and I think that's totally fair. So it felt like a lot of people were dying for, you know, one of those situations where you can do a movie and they're basically just dying because, like, that's the momentum behind the board. It's like, maybe you guys should think about this. Like, just go take your coffee break. This is not a good idea for you.
Fair.
But I mean, there were some really cool moments. Like Dr. Huang was interesting. The mechs were cool. Like having a medic, like it was genuinely terrifying. And obviously, I enjoyed like getting to hack a bunch of meats. But still, it felt like a letdown after last session, and it did feel like, at least to me, like I think Pat's explained it, I understand more now. But at the time, it felt like it was a villain who belonged to one side character taking over the main narrative.
Fair. All that said, Pat, what is your star?
I mean, so I don't know. I had fun. I don't know that that's the metric I want to go off of for saying feedback for the session. Oh, and I'm also standing rather awkwardly, like, and I'm wearing cargo shorts. It's not a very good look.
It's a great look, Queen.
If standing awkwardly and wearing weird pants was disqualifying for this stream, well, take me away.
Yeah, no, sorry about that, guys. But yeah, no, I think that this was a decent session.
Hey, what
I
the
think
fuck? My laptop
it was
died.
all right. It wasn't exactly the high note that I wanted to end the campaign on, but wasn't awful. I'll give it a 39.
A 39.
So
All right.
just short of a perfect 40.
That was 50 then, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
Yeah, so, yeah, with all that said and done, I think that we move into, like, the true post-mortem. I mean, although we can listen to, like, what people's, like, characters did next or whatever, but I think the real
Why
question...
don't we listen to that while I use the bathroom?
Sure, yeah.
Right back.
I think the real question is, like, what could have been done better structurally, and like what has this taught us about mid-length campaigns, and how to set them up right.
Definitely plan things out.
You say that, but often it was like several
I think
times
over planning was really the problem here.
Yeah, like often it was the turgid episodes that scored poorly.
Yes,
I would say, I think the bigger issue was the concept of this campaign was, you know, human Empire soldiers getting their blindfolds taken off to the, you know, literal war crimes. And half the party
knew and didn't
give a shit about war crimes. And I feel
really
like
soldiers.
I feel like the initial pitch was a good idea, but it didn't line up with the characters we ended up making, which is something that could have been addressed. I don't think it necessarily would have been better than what we had, but it could have been addressed. And it was... Geez, I completely lost my train of thought there. Effectively, the campaign failed to adapt from its initial premise to the reality of it quick enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Do you think that like a full-on session 0, like where we kept like the campaign arc in mind, could have changed that?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, not always. Like, I would have said yes before, like, the whole thing with my campaign, but, like, sometimes you just can't predict that. Like, I think, like, I knew the premise in advance, and I made a company agent because I thought it would be fun to play, and, like, Pat signed off on it. So it was just that, like, the incentive wasn't strong enough. Like, it was still, I guess, a little bit of disconnect expectations, but I think I might have still made the same character if we had a session 0.
Well, the thing, I imagine if there was a session 0, it would be on the DM during the session 0 to be like, here's what the campaign is about, here's the restrictions with which you make your character. Because I also was like, okay, I know this is supposed to be about human marines, but can I play a IO agent?
Yeah, literally nobody fucking played a human marine. Closest was Lucian.
I kind of.
Yeah. Closest was Lucian with the medic.
So
I don't know. I think the closest was Devin with the pilot. He was like a real soldier, a medic.
Oh yeah, true. That makes sense. Yeah, it's probably Devin.
Yeah, premise versus
I
reality.
just feel like if we really wanted to stick to the initial concept, the DM could have just been like, during a session 0, no, that doesn't work. Make something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to deny people like.
It's easy. You just say no.
The issue is also like It's not that Clarice Ritter's concept didn't work. It's just that like more needed to be done to
I
incentivize
think
the twist.
one Clarice Ritter / Carl Harris type works fine. Because I feel like there's 3 categories of people in regards to this sort of flipping concept. People who know what's up and are on board for it. You're going to need to flip them via incentives. People who are going to be like, oh god, this is terrible, how dare I, you have opened my eyes to the horror in which I have participated. And then people in the middle who are like, kind of like Shin's character, where they didn't know all the terrible stuff that was going on, but it didn't really bother them that much either. But they had their own reasons to change sides. And we ended up having almost everyone in the had their own reasons / co-signed on the genocide team. And almost no one in the I'm innocent will actually be surprised by this team.
Fair.
Okay. Fine.
Excellent. I'm also going to step away for a moment. I'm actually just making some points about like how Session 0 could have helped and how there's more or less 3 categories of people in terms of level of knowledge and how much they care. And yeah.
I don't entirely agree, but
Yeah, like I don't know if there's a perfect case. Like, I mean, do you really consider a human Empire Marine innocent? I'm sure they committed some war atrocities. Like, I guess I don't understand like the perfect case of this scenario. Like with the Platonic ideal, like human Marines really like they probably don't know the high level imaginations of what's going on, but like I assume in the same way that like they use propaganda to depict the Nazis as animals, or they did the Jews people. Like they know that they're people. They just are taught to not see them as people. Like that's very common.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Like, I was definitely envisioning there being more, oh, I've been lied to my whole life. The human empire is actually the kind of antagonistic force here. Like, I was hoping for more, like, revelations. Like, oh, this is not actually how I was taught everybody else in the galaxy was. Like, I was hoping for a little bit more of that, but, I got way too many, like, genre-savvy characters, so I'm like, I really have to reconfigure this premise a little bit.
I guess in that case, the problem is that, like, we start from a perspective where we know change stars, so I think you need to do more in-world building of kind of, like, what kind of misinformation we actually have, because this thing, like, I don't know what the human empire, I mean, apart from the fact that they're lying about all of the genocides and about attacking the Veer and the Mustuk, and, like, I don't know how that's presented to the human Marines. Yeah. So I think we need more propaganda exposure if we were doing like the we're Marines who get captured bit.
Yeah, and I tried to
one should have been boot camp and propaganda.
Actually, it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, like boot camp, we could bond with each other.
That would actually be cool. Yeah, like just running something else.
Yeah,
like, or even on screen could have been fun too. Like on screen.
I really should have done something like that. Yeah.
Let's definitely write that down, Lee. Yeah,
I will say.
I often find that like. Session 0s, where you actually get to roleplay as the characters you're making, are often more beneficial than just talking about it,
Yeah.
Like, discussing your characters is okay, but actually getting to, like, roleplay with the other characters, like, tends to go a long way, in my experience at least.
Especially if it's, like, loose canon. Not, like, loose canon, sorry, but, like, the canonicity of what happens is loose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, we're sort of role playing right now, but like we're also still figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
No.
We were in an interesting position both as players and as the DM here, I imagine, and where we knew a whole lot more about the future than about the past and present of our scenario. So you're dropped in this place where we're not quite sure all the details of what's going on. We know the broad strokes, but we do know where it's going. And so I think that informed a lot of the character creation decisions.
Probably. No, you're
and just the way we played in general, because no clue as to what the life in the human empire is like, but I know exactly how it falls apart.
Mm-hmm. You guys played a part in it.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no. I did try to give you a couple propaganda-y moments in the beginning, I think they were pretty poorly placed and not sufficient. Yeah, no, like it's not like I was completely ignorant of this idea. Yes, set the scene, tell people where they are and what their characters' potential motivations might be. I just did not go nearly as in depth into that as I should have, nor did I give you any incentive to play characters that were as naive, I suppose, as I based the premise of the setting on you being. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard because like the characters we ended up with were so good, but yeah, like probably we should have just not had Clarice Ritter and Io Harris be here.
I think one or the other would have been fine.
Mm.
But I think both is really where you run into the issue of like it's too much cynicism in a party of 5 or 6.
And yes, and I also ended up neglecting you at the very end and Madeline in the beginning. So like, you know, there can be only one, as they say.
There can only be one, the cynic lander.
Yeah. Oh my god. So we know that like the premise versus the reality needed some addressing. Is there any other big takeaways in terms of the climax? Like, what do we think makes a satisfying climax to a campaign that's like 6 to 10 episodes long?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Well, the thing is, I'm not hearing that people really love. Well, you actually gave episode 8 a pretty good rating, Rainbow.
I still enjoyed it. Like, it was still fun. I don't know. Like, yeah. It was enjoyable still. I think, like, the fight, like, in the father thing was so... It felt so climactic. Like, that makes a good ending, you know? But then there was still more to do, right? Which felt odd. But, like, it didn't hamper it so badly where it was like, oh, this just feels, like, awful now. Like, it was still enjoyable, like...
Like, the rest was all falling action, but rather than, like, you know, and where are they now falling action, it was, and then they have a big intense fight falling action.
Yeah, which felt very, like, out of place a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, so, like, if we would have give a different climax to this campaign, like, should it have just been, like, the father fight happens, and then, you know...
Like, the father fight shouldn't have been just against... I feel like, you know... If it was like, oh, like, you know, the lady and her guard like show up in the middle of the fight kind of thing, and like, made that moment was so high, and you could have made it even higher by like having the big like the like big plot character come in like right at the end or something, right?
Yeah.
Because like once we take over father, like they've basically lost, right? Like,
right. That is
so like
the position
I feel like
it, be in,
yeah, so like,
but yeah, no, you're right.
Or I guess like make the threat she poses more seriously, because it was really just a threat to us. Like she got that remote station, but if that fight had been to, I guess, yeah, again for father, like if she had the possibility of genuinely shutting it down or reversing the mines or whatever, that would give it higher stakes because then we'd be fighting for more than ourselves.
And like the thing is though that like lots of your characters were fairly personally motivated. Like,
yeah, it's not like that's unreasonable for our characters. It's just that that's not really climactic, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like, yeah, like
I think I understand.
we want like you want.
Like, yeah, Clarice always like cares about her own life, but that's not her goal. Her goal is to move onward and upward and to like do really big things. That's like round one. Like, yes, I don't want to die.
How'd you come up with such a unique character motivation? Don't want to die, Madeline.
I said that's not the motivation. Like, I literally just finished that. Let's be real, Clarice risked her life a lot for.
She definitely did.
Like, she almost died like 3 times and should have actually died once.
So more or less, like we needed to put more eggs into one basket and then like ramp it up, not once but twice, and then like cut it off there, and honestly, like rolled this into, yeah. More or less, have the father
Makes a lot
fight
of
beat all. I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, like, I guess I kind of liked that there were all the things going on, but I probably needed to think a lot more about how they were going to pan out and leave a lot less to chance.
And it's
Yeah.
also like in the combat, like I think it's a different experience for you, Lee, because in the last combat you were puppeting like a lot of the people, but for the rest of us, it was like 15 minutes between turns. So our actual experience isn't very dynamic because of the way combat works.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, honestly, there was also just a lot of mistakes made there in terms of things that I bothered to run rather than just writing off as a side thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of that last combat could have been side things as opposed to getting run. And, you know, I think that was in part, honestly, because one thing that probably you'll note throughout this entire campaign is that Lee and I were co-DM, and we were doing a very good job of this. I think the lowest point of us co-DMing was that last session. You came up into it like not really in the right headspace, and we were actually like, I don't know if you caught on, but I was definitely feeling as though you were DMing in the very beginning of that, and I was doing nothing.
Yeah, I'm
so
sorry.
I was not really feeling good about our co-DMing
Yeah,
in the beginning.
I would say that
really
like it's another Max Madeline situation where I wasn't really feeling good about our co-DMing at the beginning of the campaign with episode 2, and then
we were doing marvelously at the beginning.
Can we call a situation where two people disagree a Max Madeline situation? Because I feel like
that's not even really an accurate description of what's happening. Like, Clarice was prominent throughout the entire campaign. She just didn't get a specific offer. Like, that's a hugely different thing from someone, you know, being neglected as a, you know, character presence.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's lessons to be learned about co-DMing, which is that, like, higher levels of communication are simply necessary to have a satisfying, cohesive time.
Yeah, and I guess it's also, like, even if something Lee can do, that doesn't mean it's something Lee should do in terms of something that just don't fit with Pat's style, even if, like, it's possible to run them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of so yeah. The ending session did not go the way either of us, I think, or any of us really hoped. I was expecting less you involvement in the very beginning, and I was expecting more of it when it came to like, yes, I show you what the enemy looks like in physical form, and then Lee handles it as a squad thing, moving on. And then it just kind of became like yes, every single individual does a thing.
The way the situation like kind of evolved was not optimal for that.
Yeah, no, we did not we didn't script that or like plan it very well.
Like scripting the nerve center attack would have been better than what happened. And I could have given you the battle on the glass. Honestly, we should have just made some bullshit reason that you guys had to fight in that room rather than using your squads, and then the squads and the people fought. And I mean, like, the thing is that, like, that is one of those things that players will be like, that doesn't make any sense at the time, and then you guys, like, don't generally bring that criticism back up ever again later. So, like, yeah, honestly, it's a weird situation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it'd be kind of fun if Dr. Huang, like, deliberately shut us in a place where we didn't have allies because, you know, she went under vengeance and has Fenrir core level access and command of ship stuff. Like, that would have made sense to me. But it's always easy to think of it in retrospect.
I was aiming for like a whole realism thing. It's kind of stupid in hindsight, but yeah. I mean, realism.
Yeah, I think the simulationism-ish thing inclination that we had going into Ichthys was sort of a hindrance. I almost regret making the Scorpio sector map. I think it ultimately did more harm than good.
Possible, but it did do a lot of good, like, perspective stuff. And you did it.
But the perspective wound up chaining us because, like, you and I both knew where Dr. Huang was, rather than her just being at the location of plot.
I mean, she basically was at the location of plot. Like, I moved her around a couple.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at this. Yeah, you did, but like it would have not made sense under that model if she had just then been in the father unit.
Yes, absolutely true.
Which would have hindered us from having what people are saying would have been a better climax. So like I ultimately feel like the Scorpio sector map was a mistake. I think it was a cool idea that I let consume what was supposed to be a more cinematic climax.
It was nice to be able to see the like size and like, you know, what's the word for that, like
Scale,
Scope?
I was gonna say like grandeur, I guess that's not the right word, but like just
perspective.
how
Scope works.
scope is probably applicable, like just how big it was, and like, you know, that it had places that like we probably weren't going to end up going to for the fight because they weren't important, but like, yeah, a military base has like a food court, like that's a thing. Like, you know, like that was cool and made it seem more like a real place, so that was nice. But like, we may have gone back to it a little too often.
Yeah, I hated the map personally. Like, I think it was nice as a map, but well, the problem is that we were just thrown this giant finicky tool that we didn't really have time to learn how to use, and so like it totally like kind of caught some of the stress in the situation because we kept trying to figure out like where we were and what was relevant. At least for me, like maps are guided by kryptonite. It's like, okay, so the dramatic final conclusion: here's a giant complicated map with tiny print that you're not going to have time to learn.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Nailed it right there in the head. I mean, it's good for like future reference, but as far as the gameplay was concerned, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have changed it. I would have encouraged you to make that map anyway, just so that we can kind of show what's going on where. But it was perhaps not the best of conceived notions.
I think we just cycled to it too often. That was the main problem, honestly. It was.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm kind of on Madeline's team. Where like, if you give us a big old map, we're gonna want to look at it whenever there's any sort of tactical decision to go on. You give us this big old hammer, and you give us anything that vaguely looks like a nail, and we're like, nail that motherfucker.
So, in defense of the map, you guys would have asked for it.
Oh, 100%. I liked the map. I don't think the map was a thing we should criticize. I don't think it was.
I do think
as best it could
I
be.
think late campaign mechanics should not be introduced. I think that if something had happened on New Near Roanoke that had involved squad movement, that would be the version. Let's imagine a version of this campaign where you are soldiers.
Right.
We have made sure that you are semi-naive soldiers. A certain percentage of you are soldiers.
I feel like the Ajax itself should have had a map like that then.
Yeah.
But you didn't come up with that style until halfway through the campaign.
Yeah, the map was style. Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah, or like it would also like because the nerve center battle, if it still happened the same way, like an example of how like squads could pair off and do things around the players without burdening the combat and allowing it to go more quickly and cinematically. And then New Neo, and like we have an Ajax, but yeah, we have an Ajax map or something like that. So we have 3 big map battles. Ajax boarding is the tutorial. New Neo Roanoke is the proving ground. And then this was your 3rd time, and you guys were familiar with the maplet style, you were familiar with the squad stuff, and your characters were more built to have anything to do with this, and it was narratively justified. Then this was like a Valkyria Chronicles ass campaign. I think that's the model under which this map makes perfect sense and is a valuable addition. I don't think that is the version of the campaign that Pat was really looking to run, though. Because, like, I don't know, Pat, like, yeah. I know that we reflected on if people had been more naive, blah, 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 but, like, did you really want a bunch of naive soldier boys?
Alright, so the idea of this was in part pretty horny, and yeah, no, I wanted to transition a bunch of soldier boys, guilty as charged.
To become soldier girls.
For the other side, yeah. No, like that was kind of like the what is the opposite of platonic?
The romantic?
And in this instance, I would say sapphic.
Not romantic. It's probably the right word.
That was the romantic
lewd ideal.
Yeah, no, that was the lewd ideal behind this. And then I was like, okay, how do I, clean the sheets, so to speak, and make this like an actual feasible idea.
So the proper
Um,
genesis
alright.
behind this was actually your conversation with Rainbow. That wasn't just your character
I mean,
concept conversation. That was the proper
was-
genesis.
that was like yes, but I made the idea before I had that conversation with Rainbow. That was just the culmination of my concept.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, no, come on. Like it's not like I didn't go into this horny as fuck. Like I do with most of them.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. So like, you know.
Yeah. No, but so the idea behind it was that I would get some naive soldiers, and obviously, like, you know, I come on as aggressively horny, but in reality, I'm like mad asexual. So like things don't really, except for the orgy scene, things don't usually end up like super sexual.
I feel like nobody believes you.
I don't unbelieve you. I just think your self-assessment is a bit skewed.
Fair enough. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah. All right. But the point is that like you didn't think hard about who the characters are going to be until you talked to Rainbow, and then you allowed that to inform some of your ideas. And like, cause like I was saying, like there were points where I was like, is this going to be enough to convert the players? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then it totally wasn't enough. To the point where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like part of the co-DMing problem is that like maybe like I wasn't entirely honest with you when I saw something that I didn't think was going to work out. Because I had a pretty reliable hit ratio. I didn't think you were going to convince Clarice Ritter to not go with the person without basically telling Madeline don't go, which is what happened. I didn't think it was going to be enough to convert the players to find out about the war crimes because so many already knew.
Well, actually, I remember you telling me the whole don't go thing a whole different way, but that's just maybe me not understanding what you were trying to tell me.
Well, the thing is, like,
I thought I was the one telling you that the whole they're not going to be able to convince her. So why even bother? Why not tell her that she has to go directly to not collect $500? And then you're like, but what if you added things to it to convince her that she wouldn't go?
Yeah, like I was trying to say politely, this isn't going to work. Maybe we could work on it.
You definitely didn't convince me that you were telling me what you were trying to tell me, so maybe work on that.
You're right, but like this is both ways of like not like you would have tell me something was going to go one way or the other and then abandon it mid-session, which I would do as well. Let me be clear here. I would do as well if I was DMing. I would just randomly change things, but then afterwards you'd be like, "Oh no, that was how I was planning to do it the whole time," and I'm like, "You didn't tell me." So I think that overall the question is like, do we co-DM campaigns, and if so, what do we need to do differently?
I think so. I don't know. You've now introduced to me some doubt as to my idealization of this, but I thought that our co-DMing was really, really fucking good for the first couple episodes. I thought that all the beats that needed to be hit were met. And I thought that we were really
felt that the difference in direction in episodes 2 and 3, it felt like there were several times where like I was like, and then the gas gets released, right? But I would never say anything because we didn't really have an open channel of comms in the middle of a game. You were busy playing a game, so was I.
Yeah.
Like it felt like there were a few times I could have kicked you under the table and made something happen. That I was like, you said that this was going to happen, right?
And I should have done that, yes.
Because like the gas was your idea. It's not like I was like forcing your hand there. I was waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Literally. That's literally
right, which I mean I do all the time. So like again, I'm not like I don't mean to like criticize you as a DM. I'm just saying like when we co-DM, there's like higher requirements and yeah, like I don't know. Also like there needs to be boundaries because like it felt like I was wavering there, seeing things take too long and thinking like I shouldn't overstep. And then by the end of the campaign, I was like, we need to finish this. And any suggestion in my mind of not overstepping was more or less dismissed. And I just sort of ran around doing things. And that was... that was an overstepping. A vast overstepping. that was built up to across the history of the entire campaign, but didn't become a problem for you until the end. But at the same time, me holding back from stepping a little, also probably, like, I think this could have been a 6-episode campaign if a few times, like, at the very least, episode 3 would not have happened if I had coughed in your ear once.
Yes, absolutely.
And considering that's literally, like, the lowest reviewed episode, like, I think that there's a happy medium between gentle reminder and overstep, and we just need to establish what that looks like in terms of co-DM communication mid-session and having a strong plan going into a session, a strong yet dynamic and flexible plan, because I don't know, like, I guess I stepped away. There was a big argument about, like, was this campaign under or over planned, wasn't there?
The discussion was mostly, I mean, what I talked about was, actually, no. I don't think so. I'm trying to remember what you stepped away for.
I would say it was an argument. We were just talking about, like, I don't know. I personally don't think it was over planned.
Well, I guess I think the problem was it was made up before, like, we kind of had the characters, so it was the problem where it was hard to, like, course correct. But I think there was a lot of work that went into it that just ended up disconnecting with things we actually did at points.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
That's fair. I guess one example of where, like, under planning hurt was when, although didn't we, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was due to feedback from episode 6 that we redid the plan, right?
So, yeah.
Which is sort of like the catch-22, like, to honor the players' feedback, we kind of had to ditch what we told the players. Which, to be fair, we could have just been honest with people about, and I could have, like, sent them a message or something.
Well,
but...
So I guess, like, what feedback did you incorporate? Like, I guess I don't remember the part where we were like, make a giant complicated space station map and lots of fiddly bits within that. I guess yes, like we didn't want a space battle because then it does like.
I don't.
The space battle idea was scrapped from episode 3.
Space battle. Space battle was already dead in the water well before episode 6.
Like, so then why did we plan it? Because that, like, we didn't plan the infiltration at all in episode 7. We only planned the space battle.
The plan actually, I let you guys do that in lieu of actually acting out the originally conceived of space battle.
Okay.
Basically, I was like, you guys don't actually want to play space battle, but here, you guys might want to have some input, and I'll let you have this planning phase because it'll make you feel better, I guess, about not actually playing the space battle and just letting me describe what happens. But then I didn't incorporate any of the stuff that you guys mentioned wanting to do in the ascribing of the space battle because Lee was taking on the entire space battle thing, and also we didn't like to really write down what you said. So, kind of a dick move on our part, but you know. And it ended up not being that fun for, I think, everybody, so I'm really sorry.
I think it comes down to also a question of, like, what, like, you brought up a few times, Madeline, like, would it even be appropriate for these characters to have anything to say at, like, an Admiral's meeting about how they're going to do the space battle? Like, ultimately, like, it needed to be a Valkyria Chronicles campaign if it was going to be a Valkyria Chronicles campaign from the jump.
You keep referencing this. I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I also don't know what it is.
Literally, you're the only person who knows what he's talking about.
James also knows it, but it's just it's an anime World War II. It's an anime World War II game, and you like in a weird cross between real and turn-based combat, you have your anime World War II people fight. And,
It sounds like a very bad and also extremely, like, enemy filter game.
I mean, I don't know. It sounds like fun, but that's not the point. I just didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah. But the point is, like, if it was going to be like tactics and troop command, that needed to be integrated at the appropriate point throughout. I think the issue is it was going to be a spaceship combat game, and then we realized, even the changes we're making to spaceship combat really just sort of shit the bed. I will say that, like, I think that some elements of the spaceship combat procedure, it's so long ago I can't even remember, but I do remember feeling like I was allowed to run the first space combat more, and I do remember feeling like I was allowed to run the second space combat a little less, and, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
At the end of the day, okay, this is gonna sound really harsh, and I know, like I've said this multiple times, but like, at the end of the day, I think like a large majority of the problems that I had personally with this game resulted in like communication problems, like between sessions, right? That was like the main one, where like, you know, the stuff needed to be dealt with off stream, and it a lot of the time didn't, and then it just caused a lot of like extra wasted time in sessions.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just like I have yet to like have the only time, okay, how do I phrase this without sounding super like harsh, like I don't like this system.
No, that's fine. Like, I mean, that's all.
And I've made that very clear multiple times, and like the only time I've ever really enjoyed a like combat encounter in this system was the one shot we did with the agendas and everything, and when me and Pat played like the Popstar security guard duo. That's the only time I've ever enjoyed combat in this system, seriously. And so just because of that, I feel like going into all of the encounters, like, you're just at a disadvantage because the system doesn't, like, it sets up like other things like outside of combat stuff is good in the system, I think. Like, you know, like the way like the command and like manipulation rules work is pretty fun, and like, you know, the stress system is great, and like trying to like, you know, do like skill checks to get things like while there's like a combat thing going on, like it's fun and stuff, like it has its merits, but the combat is just so dog shit that I don't want to sound so harsh because I still think it's a fun system, like at its core, like it can still work, like sometimes, but like, God, it's just like
I mean, like, I wouldn't worry too much because like Alien Summer is ending, and I agree, and we're making our own change to our system. But what is something
it caused a lot, like I said this at the end of the last session as well, but like it caused the majority of the encounters in this game to just not be fun. Like, even the father fight, which I thought was the best encounter, like I said, like even still had its demerits, to be honest. Like, and most of them weren't caused by the way you guys set up the encounter, but by the system itself just not being functional in certain ways.
Your main great.
I think the comment seems like all comments basically seem the same to be into the system. Like, what makes this one worse than D&D or something else?
Because in D&D you have so many more options, and the information presented to you is clear a lot more often. Like, you know, in D&D I know how far I can move, and if it's been more than one turn, I probably know how far the enemy can move. And so, like, you know, you can position yourself on the map so that an enemy can't reach you in one move, or like, you know, just that alone is already like there's a million like different like things you can do, right? And then like past that, like literally in this system, like I know in D&D, like yes, a lot of times combat does just like end up being like, you know, I roll a hit, deal damage, you roll a hit, deal damage. But like you can make it a lot more interesting with magic and like feats and stuff, right? And like different like monster features and things.
Yeah.
In this system, it's literally just roll range combat or roll close combat. Like
I mean, in this campaign, like Clarice hacked multiple robots and turned them into weapons against the enemy.
But
like,
those
that didn't happen, but I guess it's
those
not
aren't-
mechanically reflected.
those aren't raw rules. Yeah, like that is 100% homebrew by Lee, basically. All of that hacking stuff.
Me,
And
By
you too.
Pat,
Sorry,
by
yeah.
Pat, but yes.
that was on me.
Apologies. I
It
didn't
was
know
all
who
me,
came up with
God.
the idea.
I'm
It was
pretty sure it was me.
it was Pat's idea. It was also her idea to give them hacker hands, I think.
But yeah, like that stuff was fun. That was the like one of the best parts about the encounters in this game. But it's not raw. Like it's from you guys, you know. Like
I just imagine
Like,
Gordon Ramsay going, "It's fucking raw."
the system needs like to be fun. The system requires more and more supplement from the DM, which is just putting you at like you're just at an innate disadvantage at the beginning. Like yeah, I don't know, and like I don't know the progression system in the Alien game is not that fun either, in my opinion. Mostly because
Yeah, I think we all agree that progression in Alien RPG kind of
I disagree because Valeria has
Maybe,
become like a
like,
badass.
a maximum of 5 seconds.
like I don't know the way the like the certain stats are set up and stuff.
Oh, interesting. I quite like the way their
Like,
stats are set up. But
Really, like
specifically-
the having
Well,
having the
medical care and persuasion skills. being the
yeah,
same
it's
stat.
so weird. Like that makes no
Yeah,
sense
Pat
to me.
just
Like,
likes that as well. I think, right, Pat?
What did I say?
You don't like that empathy, command, and manipulation, medical care, command, and manipulation are all under empathy.
Oh yeah, no. I think medical care honestly should be more of an intelligence-based thing.
Yeah. Also,
It just
medics
makes
get
sense.
fucked. Medics get fucked because they only have one tag skill in their tag stat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I talked
no.
about this
On top
a
of
bit
and that's not to say
when
nothing of the
we
healing
were-
mechanics because those are terrible and you had to be a medic, or you chose to be. a
Yeah.
medic. But yeah.
I mean, they're not. Yeah, but I think the healing mechanics are more serviceable than the core combat. To be honest, like even though they're bad, like it's better than just the
That's
way the core
interesting.
combat works.
I mean,
Like
the core
Yeah, it is
combat's
kind of
not-
terrible. You can't like heal someone before they're
yeah, it's
broken.
awful. That sucks. That's
That part
terrible.
sucks,
But at
yeah.
least I can like use my brain a little bit and be like, oh, okay, like Clarice is like probably going down next turn. Let me just like hide back for a second. Don't die. When she goes down, then I can like rush in on my next turn and get her back up, right? But like the core combat doesn't leave any of that like on the table. Like it's just like okay, well if I don't shoot this turn, then like I'm just losing flat damage because action economy. So like just click the shoot button. Oh, I rolled successes, damage. Like go on. Like there's no like because the movement system is because when it comes to guns, right? Like in RPG systems, it's all about like your positioning, right? Like that's like 95% of like tactics in RPG systems where you're using like guns, right? Like when it's like swords and stuff, it's a little bit different. But like when you're just using like guns most of the time, like having the fact that the movement is so like you're here, you're there, who fucking knows where you are, like it makes it so wishy-washy with the combat that like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how far I could move at any point in any of the encounters that I've ever played in Alien, like unless Lee specifically stated it to me when I asked it, or Pat specifically stated to me when I asked it, or whoever the heck was running the session. Like, you know, like I don't know.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. It should be square-based because we use square-based maps.
I wholeheartedly agree. The zone and movement system is ambiguous and stupid. It allows for a lot of kind of cheesing of certain things where you're like, I'm going to start my turn in complete cover, end my turn in complete cover, but step completely out of it to shoot someone, and that doesn't cost me any movement because it's in the same zone.
Yeah. But also like
And
stuff
that
like
feels pretty bullshit.
stuff like you know like you're saying like in like versus D&D earlier, like if I'm like standing in range of an AoE attack that a creature has, like and I get hit by it, like that's my fault. Like I shouldn't have been there, right? In this system, like, oh, that guy can reach me on his turn. I didn't fucking know that. How the hell was I supposed to be able to tell he could reach me or not? Like, you know,
honestly,
like
a lot of that falls on me as a map maker, though, because the maps that they give you to run the session with don't have ambiguous zones. So, like, really, that is my failing more than anything.
But I feel like that just makes a visual clutter, and it just makes the maps look bad. Personally, like.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you. The mobility system in the Alien RPG system. I love, and anybody here who's watching, take this to the bank. Love the Alien RPG system. I love the game. I love the system, setting, everything. But
bank takes Alien RPG love.
Well, I'm hoping eventually the bank of Diesel Shot, because I love this game and community. Stares directly into the camera like fucking
free Illegan, give us your money.
Whatever the fucking show that Kevin Spacey was on. Anyway, moving on. I agree with you that the mobility system is really fucking wishy-washy. It does not fit our mapping system at all. The way that we and I make maps, and the way that we've primed ourselves to make maps, and the way that Roll20 in general works, and also just in the way that the brain works. Does not.
I don't know. In defense of the zone system, like I don't think it works for Jurgens' mapping style, but I can't make maps to scale. My maps are terrible, so zones are helpful. Like if I draw lines in it, suddenly you can use the system where like the 30 feet is not going to be accurate in any way because I can't make maps.
Oh, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree.
Mistana draws a line in the sand, Queen.
That
is the thing I'll say about
idea.
Alien RPG. I think it's a system very designed for a particular style of play. And if you step too far outside of that proverbial box, you end up running into a lot of issues with what and what doesn't.
They like literally intend for you to play this like every cinematic module is an Arkham Horror expansion pack that is standalone, and you spend like a few weeks playing to the point where they give you semi-advanced characters to choose from, and by default, none of the cinematic modules support creating your own character. Like,
no, that's absolutely true.
So, like, this game is designed to be somewhere between Arkham Horror and an RPG.
The issues we have been having with it, I think, are entirely born from the fact that we are not doing that even a little bit. We are playing it as a full-blooded RPG, which in many ways it really isn't meant to be played as.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, like I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying like, oh, these goddamn developers, they made such a shitty game. I'm just saying like it just doesn't work like in the ways that I want it to, or the ways that we are intending to use it.
Yeah.
So like
ultimately, I'd say the post-mortem consensus there is like I chose the wrong system for going all in on with Alien Summer.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I love Alien RPG, and this is not just being a cynical cash grabbing one. Not that there's really any cash to be grabbed, because we don't really make much on this, period, and it's a gripe of mine. Moving on. I love the game. I love all the experiences I've had playing it. Change Stars would not exist, period, if it weren't for me wanting to play Alien RPG. The original concept behind Change Stars was, I want to play Alien RPG. I want to play it on our screen. And then I found out that I didn't have all that much free time to try it before I put it on the screen, and I did not want to put it on the screen before testing it out. And I had the unique opportunity of hosting for Madeline, James, and a number of the other people who were in this.
I get what you're saying, and yes, there is a history that we have with Alien
they
RPG,
did not
and I
want
like
to
it.
play Alien in the universe.
However, none of this begins to address any of the criticisms that Rainbow and Max have.
Oh no, but it does 100% address what you said, which is to say we chose wrong. I disagree.
Okay, but like system choice here, like
setting is irrelevant to the system.
For the campaign, as we ran it, like there was like early on, we ignored the zone system and would sometimes run with like you just have a certain many meters of movement, right?
Definitely.
and like, yeah, so I'm just saying, like, in terms of the system deployment, that could have been done better. There are some elements that are just baked into the system. Some elements are simply baked into the system, and I'm just saying, like, going forward, when we do a campaign, we should do a bit better of a job matching its contents to its system than we did in this instance, however, Alien RPG has an important, in the Year Zero engine, has an important relationship with the genesis of Change Stars. I'm not disputing that, however, going forward, making our own Change Star system, we're gonna want to think about this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but like here, like what one of the things you said, Pat, is that like, oh, you love all the memories that you made, like playing Alien RPG, right? And but like, imagine if those memories could have been even better in a system that worked better in some cases, like,
I'm a bit of a so I'm not as much of a gamer girl as I like to present myself as being. The mechanics of a system don't all that much matter to me as long as I'm enjoying myself. I'm really not picky. I am an absolute system slut, so to speak. I can find over a prolonged period of time that I dislike a system. That has not yet happened to me for Alien RPG. But then again, I don't really work as a player in Alien RPG as much as I do as a GM, and maybe this is just me admitting to my GM privilege on stream,
which must be checked,
because that I have not quite yet checked. You know, like, maybe I don't know how the failings of the system.
Check your GM privilege pack.
Oh my god!
I want to speak to two things about Alien RPG that are in relation to games we have played, not on stream.
Yes.
There's the I think my favorite Alien RPG experience was the cooking,
the cooking
episode,
thing. Yeah,
the Food Wars.
We're gonna do that on stream. We're gonna do that.
Was effectively a total conversion, and I think it worked well because it kept a very tight scope, like this system is intended to. It was a completely different scope, and all the skills were different, but it was still tight.
Yeah, I think it's the strength of the Year Zero engine.
Really wish
and
it was.
The other thing I'll say is,
what I did right.
on Sundays right now, we are doing a Alien RPG campaign.
Yeah.
As in, not like a medium-length campaign, a full-length campaign. And I am wondering if we should address some of the things we're talking about now for that. Perhaps not on stream, because it's not really relevant to the stream.
Yeah.
But just in general. Because I remember at the very beginning when we started this, I said this will be fun, but we might need to talk about the fact that this game doesn't necessarily work for the type of play we're doing. And everyone was like, it'll be fine. Yeah, but I suggested various changes, and everyone was like, nah, it'll be fine.
I don't remember saying, nah, it'll be fine. I remember saying, no, I want you to do a change songs. Oh my god, I'll do anything for this.
Okay. I just remember a particular time where I was like, perhaps we could, add more skills, change around what skills exist, change around some of the various things. And everyone was like, and I'm like, maybe different classes, maybe different this. And everyone was kind of like, I don't know. And gave reasons not to, and then we did.
Fair. Overall, for the campaign though, for the post-mortem, because I want to close the book. We're almost to 1 a.m.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we talk about, like, all right, so, like, I know this is gonna sound like hackneyed and ham-fisted as fuck, but what do you think that we have, as Diesel Shot, learned from this campaign? And I'm gonna go first. Leland's takeout.
It's like one thing we all learned, or like
Never do campaign again.
You don't need to make it limited to one thing, but like, what do you think, like, we take forward with us, not just as an observation, but like, what do we apply to the next campaign? And I'm gonna say a full action plan template for campaigns is necessary and good. We should not treat any plan as necessary in and of itself, but use them as a common language to forward the campaign's objectives, whatever they may be, testing out integration, player fun, revenue, growth, etc. themes and recurring characters should be ironed out and thought about at the pitch level. Like, when we're talking about, like, what campaign we're going to do next, we should be talking about this. I think that's my takeaway. I know that sounds a little weird because I don't think I really brought any of that shit up other than, like, I'm thinking about how, like, the code DMing didn't always work out great. But I think that would have helped us. I digress. Rainbow, do you have any takeaways for us?
What did I learn, or what did we learn as a group?
I mean, yeah,
like, what did you, like, I'm so confused. Yeah, I don't know.
Like
you learned that we could all benefit from as a group.
Yeah.
Okay.
That we can all benefit from, and that, you know, the future programming / games hosted by us.
Okay.
For you. Yeah.
I think overall, like, the most important thing, like, this is gonna sound kind of odd considering the things I've said, but, like, I know I've griped on, like, you know, the encounters in the system the most, but, like, at the end of the day, like, this was enjoyable because the roleplay was just fun, right? And so I think at the end of the day, like, and I've kind of learned this playing my own, like, DMing my own game recently. As long as you set up the players to have enjoyable roleplay, like, if the encounters are shit, it's still gonna be fun. Like it can be even better if the encounters are interesting as well, right? But like at the end of the day, like, roleplay makes a session, I think. And so as long as, yeah, I think that's, like, the big takeaway for me. Like, and I kind of, the thing is, I kind of learned that in my own game over the course of us playing this game, and then found it to be true while playing this game as well.
Yeah, I think it shines through because I do think that people went into this with a strong character concept and had some good inter-party relations.
Like, yeah, like, at the end of the day, the best part of this game was like, talking in character with the other characters, right? And making, like, and, like, seeing our characters have character development, right? And so as long as you, like, you guys as DMs provide space and, like, kind of, you know, forward action, I guess, within the plot to let us continuously have interesting roleplay, even if all the encounter stuff is really bad, it's still enjoyable, you know? It's, at the end of the day, I would still say that was a good session, you know? And I did multiple times in this game when I thought the encounters were shit, but we had great roleplay. And at the end of the session, I was like, I love the session.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, like, I know I literally just spent, like, half an hour griping on, like, how important system is, but at the end of the day, it's not.
No, I mean, I don't see any contradiction there. You laid out the issues with the system, like, because you can have both great encounters and great roleplay.
Yeah, and that makes, like, that
Primo.
is where the best sessions come from, right? But, like, a really good, solid session that you can be, like, that anybody could be proud of comes from at the heart, I think, roleplay.
Hell yeah. Preach, sister. Preach.
Yeah.
Testify. But yeah, yeah, I think that, anything else, Rainbow, or are we moving on to Max's takeaway?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Max, it's your takeaway. What kind of takeaway restaurant are you?
I'm one of those really sketchy ones that you never see anyone at, but still in business, and always has, like, 3 weirdly expensive cars parked outside.
And the
Drug front.
Clearly
yeah,
fun.
so mob front. And they also serve, like, every kind of food under the sun.
How do you think I'm always free to do stuff?
Monka?
Nani?
Yeah, I'm money launder, kids. No, I'm kidding.
He jokes, but there's literally, like, a rug store near his house, and every time I see it, I'm like,
There's a rug store near my house? I don't even know about this fucking. Whatever. That's not the point. Also, how often do you see the rug store near my house that apparently exists?
Whatever.
Please stop me. That's not the point. Give us your feedback.
Okay, yeah, sorry. My feedback is more medium form content.
More medium form content. So,
I think that was regardless of the trials and tribulations of this campaign in particular, I think it showed off quite nicely how good medium form content can be for a stream. Where with short form stuff, yeah, with 1-2 section things, it can be fun. But at the end of the day, you might be left to be like, okay, I wish I could see that character more. And with campaigns, they can get bogged down in a mire at times. So medium form, 5, 6, 7 session things, where it's designed to go on for a bit, but also with a very definitive, approachable end goal, is, I think, the perfect one.
I would agree, actually.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something we learned.
Extended one.
Long enough to satisfy, but not so long that it hurts the cervix.
No, extended 3
Oh my
shots.
God,
Guys. Extended 3, and also fuck you.
How did Max slip that in there without anybody making a comment? Hello?
I was violent
Like,
though.
I gotta.
Fuck him. You might be sore afterwards. But yeah. Anything else, Max? Or no?
No, not really.
All right.
Just yeah.
Madeline, 2 questions. 1, what kind of takeaway restaurant are you? And 2, what's your takeaway?
I mean, no. I refuse to acknowledge the first question.
Please,
Much
Madeline.
like I
Madeline's.
refuse to acknowledge all questions related to breakfast.
Please, Madeline is a sit-down restaurant. Thank you very much, Lee.
I'm gonna say exactly. Sit down,
Bougie
Mediterranean.
ass restaurant.
Is it no, like, that's not a noodle. It's, I digress.
No.
All right.
French. I could see French.
All right. But yeah, okay.
Mal-
So, well,
Madeline's definitely like a Mediterranean, French, or maybe Japanese restaurant.
I was thinking Greek. I was thinking
I was
gyros.
thinking Greek too. Yeah. I don't know. Probably just like the whole ancient Greek thing.
We digress heavily. Madeline, what's your takeaway here?
Okay, yeah. So I'd say Rigid Stars was a great experiment in like how do you play a prequel, and I mean some aspects of that were successful and some weren't. So I'd say that it is a cool concept, but it does kind of lead to a clash between world building and things that have to happen and things that organically develop. But I think it ultimately worked out. But I'd say probably in the future just start with a slightly more freeform concept. Like don't know exactly how this area of history ends so that you can invent something. And then, enshrine it in canon, which would be a cool experiment.
Mm-hmm. That is actually a really cool idea.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah. I would say you did kind of pigeonhole yourself a little bit by having this fight kind of have to end in a specific way and everything, and like it did force some things.
Yeah. I mean, cards on the table. If you guys had failed in your mission, this would not have actually led it to be a battle of Station. So I didn't tell you it was gonna happen. But when I saw the cards,
but then if that happens, it just feels disingenuous,
Yeah.
I never told anybody there was gonna be a station. Like it just happened.
It was heavily implied.
But you were reading into it.
I thought that you literally tweeted like the players are going to take space in the Battle of the Station or something.
At the point where I knew it was gonna happen, which is to say, like episode 7.
Fair.
But yeah.
But yeah. So Madeline, I'm assuming that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now Pat, what's your takeaway? And what kind of takeaway restaurant are you?
I'm
Chinese?
definitely. I mean, even half minutes. Yeah. Well, I would like to think. All right, I would like to think Chinese fusion, run by a very uncritical white man. So. Yeah. But yeah, no. Amusing self-critiques aside. Let's go ahead and dig into this. I don't think that I did a fantastic job here. I don't think that... Yeah, I've got a lot of self-doubts as a GM, and occasionally I see reasons as to why I might have those self-doubts. Usually I'm just, of course, buoyed on a stream of hot air that y'all let me generate by casting me up so much. But, I think that was funny. Yeah, no, I think that there was perhaps a lot of room for improvement on my behalf. I think that this was a little bit of an ambitious endeavor of mine, and it shows. Usually my endeavors are quite ambitious, though. I mean, diesel shot, for instance.
Yeah. But Pat, what is the takeaway?
Diatribe.
The takeaway.
Takeaway.
What have we learned from this? What are we going to take forward with us into future games?
There's just, I mean, honestly, this is kind of reductive. There's a lot of things that I've learned from this. I don't think I could cohesively or concisely say them on stream.
Okay, so basically,
there's a lot. Everything that
what I'm hearing is General Zhao's chicken. General Zhao's tofu chicken.
Holy shit!
Wow. You can't even pronounce it, right?
And General Zhao, how have you? It's so. Oh my god!
Like Sao.
You never corrected me when I've said that in person on multiple occasions.
Yeah, I just assumed you were joking.
Why do you assume I'm not joking this time, huh?
Because I know you're not, huh? Anyway.
Alright.
In general, yes, I think there were a lot of things to learn. This was my absolute first time running a campaign on stream, and, there's just a lot of things that I needed to improve on, that I will in the future, but that I had to really kind of brute force through this time. So, just too many to say.
Fair.
Yes.
All right.
That's my feedback.
With that, let me see if Super Dylan is still chilling.
We're up to 8 viewers. Hi, everybody, wasting your evening with us. How are y'all doing? Before we stream off, everybody in the chat, tell us how your evening's going. Come on, put it there.
I don't see anybody responding.
I don't see anybody responding either, but we love you. Check out our Discord. What is it? Links? Let's chat in Discord, guys. That's how we actually speak.
That says lists. I don't think that's gonna work.
How is that? Is that really only one letter away?
Pat,
Crazy.
oh my god.
No, it's 2 letters away.
Yeah.
I'm a dumbass.
Yeah, we're gonna go raid someone who's doing some art streams, I think.
Woo! I might even say that.
Yeah, but we will see you all on the flip. Thank you for coming out and indulging us in this little ritual. Hopefully, future postmortems, I will get a little more structure to them. But yeah.
Hopefully, in next postmortems, I won't be quite as bad.
No, you're not bad.
It's alright. I know what I is.
I think the campaign went well. Neat. I'm in raid now.